Hello. All right, I think now I can be heard. Welcome to the stream. Save the CFB episode 6. You're gonna have to give me a moment before, as we approached 2 p.m. I had a personal thing. I don't know. Like I had a parent. I had to do a parent, and those that happens for those of you in the parenting business. You understand that happens sometimes at inopportune moments when you just kind of get a parenting 911 call. And so I had a little bit of a parenting 911 call, and I had to address that. So let's see. I have lots of problems insofar as not just in life or whatever, but lots of problems insofar as things not working. So just give me a moment to give me a moment to clear that up, and we'll get started like the way you want. Today we're going to be talking about the American identity crisis, as I call it. It is a full presentation. I have slides. I have a lot of slides, possibly too many slides, and I've just a lot to present today. So we're going to do that, and we're going to talk about, or we're going to play, sorry, Elden Ring. Okay, and take some of the text down. So let's focus on. Let's see. Stop. There we go. Okay. My camera's still not coming through, so you can't see me, and that's fine for now. I will figure it out in a moment. We'll figure everything out. Everything will be great. Oh, there we go. Okay. I'm poorly lit. I'm sorry. This room where I'm at naturally has like a backlighting. Here, I'll show. I'll take off the background filter, and you can see. There we go. See, I'm in my robot room. So we got Jetfire, Diaclone, some Voltrons, another that's Jetfire 2. We have a Grey Knight from Warhammer 40k, not a robot. We also have Carnage and Venom is over there. They're not robots. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are not robots. But for the most part, this is a robot display. Omega Supreme, everybody loves him. There's Mr. Owl. No, that's not Mr. Owl. That's a pickle with a wizard hat. Mr. Owl used to have a wizard hat. He's not back here. He's nearby, but you don't need to worry about him. Anyways, I'm in my robot room, but you can see beautiful vista, but also backlighting. And so what I really need to do is blind the whole thing for recording, because you can see the light come in and reflect off my very greasy, shiny head, and that creates, some it doesn't visually look great, but so be it. All right, I'm going to turn the filter back on, and we're going to go on to the next thing. Okay, vivecalls.org. You can go there. I don't know that there's a CFPB script up there yet, but you can look for a CFPB specific script. And generally, what we're asking is call your reps, call your senators. I mean, technically, they're all representatives. I say this, my brain. So they're all lowercase r representatives, but the House of Representatives, you have one capital R representative and you have two capital S senators, although we don't really use senator in any other term. But they're all Congress people, because Congress is bicameral, meaning two bodies, one body being the House of Representatives, the other body being the Senate. So yeah, call your Congress people and ask them to restore funding to the CFPB. Here, okay. I'm going to talk about funding the CFPB, and I'm going to solve a Rubik's Cube. I've tried this before, and it's failed. But today we're going to start off the stream with that, and I'm going to try and do it right, because I need at least some brain power to do this. Not a lot, because I've got it down pretty well, but a little. And when I'm talking, multitasking, anybody who tells you they're good at multitasking is lying. Studies show no such thing. We always screw up when multitasking. But what's more fun than me trying to multitask while on the stream here? So, and it's showing up pretty well. So I was thinking maybe I should turn the background filter off, but you can see this pretty well. Actually, I'm going to turn a light on. I got a little ring light over here. And if I can find the controls for it, I'll turn it on. And when I turn it on, my face will light up. Figuratively. Let's see. I can change the color. Oh, look how handsome I look way better now. You can still see how greasy I am. That's just genetic, though. Just a naturally greasy person. Okay. Sorry. I actually realized I should check and make sure the stream is showing up on YouTube. But anyways, so multitasking is a lie, but I'm going to do it to show you it's a lie, because I'm probably going to screw up either talking about the CFPB and what we're asking you to do, or I'll screw up the Rubik's Cube and I won't be able to solve it at the end. So, one of those two things is likely to happen. Hold on, I've got to... Again, I apologize. I'm woefully underprepared for today. And I'm just trying to make it happen. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Oh, yeah. All right, we're good. Okay, now, here we go. So, the CFPB was created by the Dodd-Frank legislation, which was, again, I never get the year exactly right, but it was probably like 2010 when the legislation was passed. Doesn't matter. Maybe somebody in the chat will pipe up, which reminds me I should get the chat visible so that I can see it. Sorry, gotta open the chat. There we go. And then I'm going to put the chat where I can see it so that folks can talk to me while I'm playing Elden Ring. Now, I only have one person watching right now, so I'm talking to them. But I wanted to know I'm also talking to you in the future, because hopefully people will watch this later as well. Anyways, the CFPB's mission is to protect consumers on what we call consumer financial products. And that differentiates from like what, these big weird financial products that banks might offer to businesses or to other countries, or there's all sorts of weird devices in finance that are not consumer related. Consumer related things are things like mortgages and student loans, car loans, credit cards, bank accounts. Those are the sort of things that are consumer level. So we're really talking about like citizen level stuff that is there to take care of ordinary everyday people. Sorry, I'm gonna whoop this. See, again, I'm already messing this up. So if you remember, or if you've maybe read a book, 2008 there was a financial crisis. This financial crisis was based on one of those weird devices that banks make for investors and things like that, that consumers actually aren't really party to. This is stuff that happens in investment circles. Consumers aren't mostly privy to things like credit default swaps or mortgage-backed securities, but consumers do have mortgages. What happened in 2008, without getting into too much of the technical nonsense of it, was essentially that mortgages, which are a consumer product, were wrapped into giant investment products. So investors were relying on mortgages to make their money back on their investments. But mortgages, so what happened is that mortgages suddenly became something that investors wanted. They wanted more mortgages. We need to buy more mortgages. Well, there's only so many humans. There's only so many citizens. There's only so many citizens that can realistically afford a mortgage. So mortgages run out. There's, a point at which can't just make more mortgages because there's nobody else to sell a mortgage to. Well, that did not deter people, as it often will not when, people are looking for a profit motive. It didn't deter people, so they started giving out mortgages to people who didn't really need them, or maybe shouldn't have them. Um, and as a result, those mortgages started to crash. So what happened as those mortgages crashed is the investments based on those mortgages crashed. And what happened is those investments based on those mortgages crashed is that banks crashed. So, in order to avoid that happening again, the law was passed, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was created, and what we do is watch consumer markets so that that doesn't happen. And we examine banks to make sure they have enough capital on hand for what they're doing. And other financial products are like regulated by other financial entities in the government. So, in addition to that, we do a lot of fraud vigilance for fraud and things of that nature to make sure that consumers are not being taken advantage of or ripped off by banks. And I mean, not just banks, but actually just fraudsters and scammers. There are financial companies that rise up whose entire purpose is essentially to scam people. So we don't want that either as a society, I think, and as investors, because if people stop trusting the markets, guess what? The markets go down. They crash because they depend on people at the basic level. So the CFPB has been chugging along and has returned $22 billion, over $22 billion, to consumers in this country by finding and fining companies who do bad things. And I think has helped over 200 million people maybe recoup money from banks and other companies, credit card companies and the like. Now, again, lots of people have had this effect, but they didn't get a check in the mail, so they don't really know about it. So, the CFPB may have helped you, and you just might not realize it because you didn't get a check in the mail. You didn't get something on a bank statement that said, "Oh, the CFPB returned this money." It might have never crossed your desk, or you just might not ever be aware of it. But it's very likely, if you're an American consumer, the CFPB has helped you, and we want to keep helping you. So go to fivecalls.org. Tell your senators and representative to fund the CFPB. This funding crisis that we're about to have in this country is the perfect opportunity for CFPB funding to be filled back up, and for Congress to say we need the CFPB. Sorry, we need protection for consumers. And the only reason they're going to say that is if you tell them to say that, because you are the people they represent, and you are the people they are accountable to. So, that said, let's get to the main event, which again I'm woefully unprepared for. I not woefully. I have the slide deck that's ready to go. Okay, we got presenter view. Okay, so now I can pull this out. Great. Now I can share that window. I'm gonna have to tell Five Calls. Five Calls gonna have to hide. Sorry, Five Calls. And save the CFPB. I'm gonna have to we're gonna need all the real estate we can get. I mean, I'm gonna have to shrink myself, and trust me, that's a blow to my ego. Save the CFPB. Can I grab you? What's going on with you, buddy? Save the CFPB doesn't want to cooperate. You can see the background fly around, right? I really wish I had a better grasp of this software. I could lock that, I realize now. Why is Save the CFPB being so resistant? Did I lock it? No, it's not locked. Oh, text is locked. Okay, there we go. Alright, save the CFPB. Why are you so big? I don't know, but I'm going to move you up here. Alright. And I'm going to shrink you down a little. Wow, there's a lot of... Okay, and that's just this is just like up here, like, hey, remember, save the CFPB. Hey, this is about saving the CFPB. It's not here for nothing. Rusty, you're going to get shrunk down. Sorry, Rusty. Again, we need all the real estate we can get in your cute union shirt. And camera, I don't need to be this big. I'm not going to be I don't have visual aids that involve, me holding things up, which is probably smart. So I get shrunk down into a little guy. Oh, just a little man there. Okay. Now what I can do, and again, this would have all been prepared if we had if we hadn't had a parenting emergency. But this is it. Okay, I'm going to call this presentation. And the window is going to be this. There we go. Some beautiful Google Slides. I'm going to hide my bookmarks bar. They're not exciting, so don't worry about that. I'm going to put the presentation behind my face because, I deserve a little bit of the attention here. Okay. And there's presentation. America's Identity Crisis. An examination of the roots of conflict in our culture and ourselves. But, what? No, we're not just doing a PowerPoint presentation today, right? Absolutely not. We are playing Elden Ring while doing a PowerPoint presentation because that is the level of dedication I have to all of you. So, I now need to add Elden Ring, so please give me a moment. I'm going to get game capture. So what I'm using here, if you're all curious, is I already have a window. Hold on. What I'm using is an open source software called OBS, which based entirely on the open source thing. I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, open source, sure, I'm in. Okay, and now we've got Elden Ring up here. I'm gonna put it, and I'm going to move the presentation above Elden Ring. All right, look at that. Okay, so I'm not that good at Elden Ring. I am good at talking. Now, let's find out if I can talk while playing Elden Ring and present a coherent thesis on identity, America, culture, psychology. What else you got? Well, we'll see, I guess, because it's my presentation. Okay, so, I'm going to go here. We're loading into Elden Ring. I'm bringing up my presenter window so that I have both open at the same time. So, first, let's talk about the Stranded Graveyard. Let's talk about, I got slide 1. How do I advance? Oh, there we go, slide 2. This is my little joke, but I think it's funny. Identities are like freckles. Everybody's got at least a couple of them, and some of them are actually harmful growths. So, as I get through this talk, we're going to talk about identity. And it's not, I want to be clear that identities, the many identities that make up an individual. Oh, you know what? You probably can't hear Elden Ring. So hold on. Let's fix that real fast. And in the meantime, now we'll do a different challenge, which is, can I fix Elden Ring's audio while doing a presentation? So identities aren't all bad. They can be good or bad, constructive, non-constructive. And it's usually actually a circumstance which makes something good or bad. That is, an identity that you might have, good or bad. Okay, there should be some noise now from Elden Ring. I'm going to turn myself up a little. Elden Ring's noise is going to be a little softer. Okay, and this is going to be fun because I have to keep clicking back and forth from Elden Ring to the presentation. Okay, ontology. What's ontology? All right, well, what's a site of grace? I discovered some lost grace. This is like a save point, which I can get back to for our yellow boy Rusty. All right, let's see. I got to fight this guy. Okay. Ontology is a kind of a division of philosophy. Sorry, I almost said psychology. I mean, you could apply it to psychology as well. Actually, people use the word ontology in like information design systems too, because it's a concept that lends itself to that as well. So in information architecture discussions, people talk about ontology. But the definition in the book is a set of categories in a subject area or domain that shows the properties and relations between them. In other words, ontology is the study of how things are categorized, defined, and taxonomized. So I wanted to just kind of briefly talk about this because a lot of where identity comes down is a matter of, oh no, I think I just, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem. Okay. Oh, we have a problem. Okay. Yep. The problem is that my controller isn't charged. I could just plug it into a USB, but first I'm going to have to kill this guy with a shield, and that's going to be a problem because I am better with the controller. I don't really... Oh, he's going to kill me. So anyways, let's talk about ontology again. Because a lot of identity is going to come down to terms. It's going to come down to like what the idea of what a word makes you think of when someone speaks it. Because sometimes that is more important than definition, right? The dictionary definition of a word is not always immediately helpful in language, in the idea, in expressing opinions back and forth between peoples, which, I mean, what else are words for? So, ontology is difficult because it's, I think we all know that words don't just mean one thing. Words are extremely powerful. I used to think that words weren't powerful and that, hey, it's just words. Why do people get so upset about words? And I've come to realize, like, words are extremely powerful. I mean, people misuse the word, like, psychically. But there's a degree to which that is absolutely accurate in how people react to words. Like, they have a autonomic, biological, psychophysical, I don't know, word, response in your body. Like, hearing a word can make your body react before your mind does. And it's because in our heads, everything's connected together. So it's ridiculous to say that words are just words and that words don't have power, because we aren't wired that way. Like, we're not psychologically, biologically, cognitively, neurologically wired to a point where we could say words don't matter. Words do matter because they fire autonomic responses. I think, again, things will happen in your body before you've even processed the language part of it, before you've thought about the meaning. So words are powerful, and that's going to be a part of how identity, relates to everything else. I'm talking far too much per slide. We are never going to get through this if I'm this slow. But I had to plugged my controller in. Yes, and now we can do both at once again. Okay, so this slide says, what is a chair? And the idea here is that we have a kind of a idea of what a chair is that might be hard to put into words sometimes. It's pretty easy. I think I put it into words here. A separate seat for one person, typically with a back and 4 legs. Okay. But, a stool. Is a stool a chair? It's got 4 legs. It doesn't have a back. The definition says typically with a back. Can a stool get away with not having a back? And next there's an inflatable chair. An inflatable chair has no legs. It's got a back. It's not made of the materials that we typically associate with chairs, like wood or metal. And last is the beanbag, which is the real rebel of the chair kingdom. No back, no legs. We still call it a beanbag chair. What the H is going on there? So here we have, just a clear kind of situation where the concept can be a little bit harder to define. Okay. And next, is a hot dog a sandwich? An argument I think we've all seen on the internet now. Um, and you know, I found a picture that is particularly thought provoking because it's like a hot dog that is a sandwich because it's like a top and bottom and it's griddled and the hot dog's in a certain way, and you know, but what people didn't realize is there as they were having this is a hot dog a sandwich conversation on the internet is that it was actually a an ontological debate. That's neat. Is a whale a fish? This is a more interesting, like, scientific debate about words. This might sound really weird to people because I think we are currently in a place where fish has like we have an idea of what it is. I'm in a boss fight too, so this is gonna be fun. Oh, he doesn't know it, but I got his number. These fights I can take. This is the part of Elden Ring I can win. You see? I'll beat that guy. But fish is actually scientifically poorly defined. So a lot of, you know, I think we've all heard that, well, actually, a whale is a mammal, not a fish. A dolphin is a mammal, not a fish. But the way evolution worked is a little bit weirder than that. There are fish, and then there are kind of three kinds of fish. And you know, this isn't a thing I'm such an expert on that I can rattle it off very easily. But there's bony fish, okay? There's cartilaginous fish, cartilage having fish. And there's jawless fish. I forget. The third kind of fish are really shitty fish. I mean, I shouldn't say that. A, because, you know, it's a swear. But B, because, I mean, that's judgmental of the poor fish. But they are fish that are, you would look at them and be like, those are worms or eels or something like that. Those aren't fish. But they're just a branch of fish. So the weird thing that happens in evolution is cartilaginous fish evolve into sharks and whatnot. And bony fish evolve into everything else. Land animals all come from bony fish. Mammals all come from bony fish. And some animals have gone through cycles of evolving, coming out of the water, then their descendants, would go back into the water, and then descendants of those animals go back onto land, and then descendants of those animals go back in the water. And so evolution's weird. But what results in this is that I have 4 pictures up here. One is a bony fish, that's a bass. Oh, this guy's, and this is Vari. I don't like him at all. Oh, you're maidenless. You're gonna die in meaningless. Your life has no meaning. I mean, really, this game is a whole other thing about identity, which is like, you're just told who you are, and you're told what you should do and what your purpose is. And self-determination comes later when you're like, well, we're giving you a choice of what road to follow, you know, but you didn't really have a full choice. You have 4 choices. And, you know, anyways, that's how Elden Ring will relate to identity. But let's get back to the pictures, and you're probably not even sure how fish relate to identity, and that's fair. So we got Hugh Jackman. That's a guy. I think pretty typical human. We got a shark. That's a fish, cartilaginous fish. And we got a whale, which is a mammal, lives underwater. In Elden Ring, what we've got is over here, there's a knight of the, what is he, a knight of the Erd Tree Knight? I forget. He's over here. See him? See that guy? We're not going to fight that guy. That guy will kill me 3 ways to Sunday. I mean, he drops a spear. That's nice, but I don't need it. So we are not fighting that guy right now. Maybe later. Right now, we can't even level yet. That's how terrible we are. Or Rusty is. I shouldn't say we. Hey, I'm at the Church of Ella now. So the thing about those 4 pictures on your screen is that The bass is probably more closely related to Hugh Jackman and the whale than it is to the cartilaginous fish, because the cartilaginous fish branched off from other fish so long ago that they are extremely different now. Whereas land animals, mammals, and humans branched off of bony fish more recently. And so, by recency, we're more close to a bass than the bass is to a shark. That's weird, but it's true. I mean, it's one way of looking at it. Of course, you could be like, well, what if you know, but I'm not here to mince words. I'm here to play Elden Ring and teach you about identity. That slide took entirely too long. Now we gotta go to the next slide. This is, if I had time, I would have come up with a shortcut key that would advance the slides so that I didn't have to come out of Elden Ring every time. But it's fine. This is fulfilling the mission of playing Elden Ring while giving a talk. So what is identity? So this is the book definition. We're gonna talk a lot about identity, and you're gonna notice that what I don't do a lot is give very good definitions of identity. And that's because these are not things where I want to give some kind of strict idea, restricting it, and thus like the conversation being about the definition. Instead, we're going to feel through it, because the conversation is more about a variety of things that kind of give us a sense of self. So here we're saying the characteristics determining who or what a person or thing is. So, you know, mostly we're going to focus on people identities. We're not focusing on thing identities. So I want to talk about the Babylon 5 conundrum. I think it's an interesting look at identity, although I don't think that was its intention. I don't know. I'm a Babylon 5 fan, but not a huge fan, so somebody could, you know, with much more background in Babylon 5 could debate this. The point is, oh, you know what's not here? Hold on. I'm realizing I don't have water, and that's going to be a problem. Luckily, I can get help. I do have a little helper, so give me one moment. I'm going to have to mute my mic and yell for help. All right, we got water on the way, because I cannot talk for this whole thing without drinking. In Babylon 5, there are two big alien species which are having a fight, and in fact, kind of a cornerstone of the series is the conflict between these two species and how they are pulling other species into their conflict. The conflict is between the Vorlons on the left and the Shadows on the right. It's not as simple as good versus evil, which is good, because that would be pretty boring. The Shadows do some fairly despicable things, and it's pretty easy to dislike them. They also associate with some dislikable characters, so it's easy to dislike them. But the Vorlons do horrible things to the lesser races, which clearly would fall under like the larger definition of evil. I'm going to put on some better armor now. I don't want to get that load up to be on medium, because then I won't roll as good. But now you can still see my beautiful muscles. Rusty's rocking it, but I'm a little bit more armored. I don't want to go into that cave yet. I'm going to try and get it to where I can actually have levels. Leveling up is an important part of the game. Whatcha! Anyways, let's talk. Oh! What a riposte! I gotta run away from this guy now. Vorlons represent a little bit more maybe order, but order can be kind of bad. You know, it can be oppressive, and Vorlons don't have much of a sense of like the privacy or well-being of lesser races. They really just look at them as tools, so they aren't good guys. The one that we spend a lot of time with, who's named Kosh, kind of as he is a diplomat who spent a lot of time around the younger races, he's a little bit nicer in terms as far as we'd understand. anyways, the battle between these two species is defined somewhat by these two questions. And now I think, let's see if we're going to get Melania. I think Melania, right? It's Melania, right? Too many M names in this game. Oh, here she is. She's going to come give us a horse. And I love that for us. But while she's talking and appearing out of the mists, we'll talk about the Vorlons and the shadows a little more. Who are you is the question the Vorlons ask when they meet people. What do you want? Greetings. Is the question the shadows traveler ask when they meet people. The fog. Like, who you are is what the Vorlons want to know about you. And what do you want is what the shadows want to know about you. But both will use that to manipulate you. With the shadows, it's a little bit easier. What do you want? Okay, if we give it to you, we want this in return. And it's easy to nail the shadows down as manipulators for that reason. But the Vorlons do the same thing. Who are you? By appealing to your nature, we're going to manipulate you into doing what you want. Are either of these questions the core of identity? Well, who are you might sound like the core question of identity. But what do you want is equally influential. Because what you want, and we're not just talking about maybe material goods, but who you want to be and what you want to be seen as, that's also going to influence your identity. It's not just about who you are. It's not just about how you see yourself right now, because you might see yourself as flawed. So identity might be something that you want as well. So I think both of these questions apply. And we'll talk maybe more about these two questions and how they relate to identity in the future. But right now, Melania is trying to give us the ability to level up, which I love. So these are just some ideas about what is identity. Just to, again, put a finer point on it without putting a finer point on it. This is a, by the way, in the game, I'm getting a whistle, so I can summon Torrent, who is like a horse, but with horns. Now I can level up. Everything's great. All right. Things like the things you like, the things you know, the things you feel, and the things you believe are easy qualities to call identity. You know, we all kind of understand that. I'm gonna up my vigor, I think, first. I only have one level worth of runes. Got to get more runes. Other things that might define your identity, though, are positions you take, political, social, whatever. I mean, opinions you have, the style you choose. You know, what are you wearing? How do you do your hair? Why? You know, what does that say about your culture, maybe, or your history, or what you want to be? Again, you know, dress for the job you want. I don't know, but that's definitely a part of identity. The accent you have, because again, to a degree, we are interfacing with people who sound like us. Has that influenced us to sound a certain way? And this game is way harder while trying to think and give a talk. Not that it wasn't hard before. So accents, a little bit. Some of that's maybe a little out of our control, but a lot of us kind of choose how we sound. The place you live. A lot of people identify with the place they live, the place they're from. It might be the place they live as opposed to the place they're from. Like, well, I live in LA, but I'm from New York, and blah, blah, blah. That's definitely part of identity. So why do we have identity? Man, there's a philosopher, and coming up to this, I promised myself I would do the research to remember who it was, but I forget, and so I'm not going to get into that exact part. Instead, sorry, little yawn. I don't want to yawn into the microphone. Okay, I'm going to talk about how to just crack somebody by double fisting your axe. Really get in there. Oh, you know what? I got a great sword. I think I'm going to switch to great sword. Oh, I can't. I need 10 decks. Dang it. All right, well, I think I know what we're getting next. The idea is that if you, I mean, the thought experiment I'll start with is if you were an eyeball floating in a void, nothing is around you. There's no light, there's no nothing, no planets, stars, no one else. You're just floating. Blackness, whiteness, orangeness, it doesn't matter the color even. It doesn't matter what you see. It only matters that you see essentially nothingness. It could be, again, it could be in black or it could be orange nothingness. I don't care. How would you know that you existed? There's nothing to differentiate you from your surroundings. You can't see yourself. There's no reflective material. There's no body parts for you to put in front of your eyeball, since you're a floating eyeball, to see that you have a body. Can't turn around and look at yourself. Can't turn around and look at a different part of you. When you turn around, you're a ball. You're looking in the opposite direction. And Descartes' answer to this is kind of, I think, therefore I am. Like, you would think, and then you would know yourself. But what could you say about yourself? I mean, precious little, because there's really nothing to differentiate you from anything else. You wouldn't know anything. You wouldn't have words for things, because things wouldn't be there. What thoughts could you possibly have, being a floating eyeball in nothingness? Identity, in many ways, is what happens when you introduce other things to that floating eyeball. The floating eyeball sees a tree. Now the floating eyeball is like, okay, well, that's not me. I can look at the tree, and I can think, like, tree, move. It doesn't move, so it's not under my control. It's got these different parts. I can name these different parts. I can start to even think things like, why is this tree here? Where did it come from, right? Like, I can understand that there was nothing and then there was a tree, right? Even if the tree was always there, and I woke up, there was a tree, I would be able to float around the tree and say, well, there's this side of the tree and there's this side of the tree, and they're different or they're the same, and I'd be able to kind of come up with ideas and thoughts. And again, I'd be able to create an identity. I'm not the tree, okay? Now we introduce language and other eyeballs floating in space, other people. Now we have a plethora of things that can define our identity. We can start to talk about things. One eyeball can say, I like the tree. Another eyeball can say, I kind of like the tree. And now those eyeballs could be like, well, did you talk to the eyeball that liked the tree yesterday? Because he was talking about the tree all day. And now we start to create identity. We know what we are. We know who other people are. Now we have identity. And that's essentially what it really is and why it exists. Why does it arise in us? See this guy? This guy's a real jerk, and I'm not going to fight him right now. Do you see he's got the fancier armor? See how fancy his armor is? That's how you know not to fight him right now. Where do I end and everything else begin? That's my first note here. And that kind of goes back to my little eyeball anecdote. What about me makes me into me? I mean, it's a very self-reflective tautology, but the point stands. What do I want people to think about me? What do I want people to say about me? What do I want people to feel about me? How long is this live stream? As long as it takes me to finish the presentation. So we got a while. I'm not most of the way through. But hey, it takes, wisdom takes time. So, moving on. When do we form identity? Constantly. We're always kind of forming and changing identities, refining our identity. A lot of it starts very young. Children start defining themselves as soon as they, start to see things and they start to develop language. Parents, I'm pretty familiar with these kinds of phenomena. And children are faced with a desire to form identity, I think. I mean, before they understand what it is or how it could be formed. So there's a lot of, kind of strange behavior that follows from that. They embrace gender a lot, even if they're not really strongly taught it. I see this a lot. They are again, since they kind of struggle with it, because I mean, no one's asking them out loud, like, who are you? Like, what is what's your identity? A lot of times people are asking them, what do you like? You know, or they're saying, I like marshmallows. I don't want corn. I don't like corn. I'm not going to eat broccoli. These are the kind of things that help them define themselves. Ooh, that missed. This guy's going to come at me real strong. And then overdo it. Ooh, and then I hit him. Ooh, and I give him one of those. All right. Again, this is all like, why are these guys even attacking me? They've otherized me. It's an identity thing, you know? Why do I want to be the Elden Lord? I don't even know. The game doesn't really tell me. So I'm just killing these guys, trying to get some runes, by the way, just so I can level up a little. You can see I've leveled up, so now I can use this nice sword. I just want some gear and some simple levels right here. There's a map up here I want to grab. I already grabbed the thing out of the dungeon. This guy isn't going to cooperate with me, but I'm going to try and fight him anyways while I talk about identity. So children embrace a lot of these things, and that's kind of how they form identity. And their name, you know, helps, I think, them start to understand their differentiation from other people. And then it's kind of like what they like and what they don't like, and the toys they like and the shows they like and things like that. And that guy dropped nothing for me. What a loser. All right. But, oh, the shocking twist. Adults do the same thing. And adults embrace gender enormously because it's an easy identifier to latch onto in our society, in almost every culture. There is nothing in most cultures on the planet, as far as I know, and I don't have a PhD in anthropology, but nothing that differentiates people more than their gender. Almost every society has those gender roles. Gender is fairly easy in most cases to identify on site. Not all cases, but I think most of us know most cases. Right or wrong, it is what it is, and it is a easy thing to latch onto. That's probably why people latch onto it. And so it's very easy to form an enormous part of your identity based on gender. And that's why gender is such a big deal. And I say that ironically because I am someone personally who does not find gender to be defining. I don't like it when I am told, well, you're a man, so you wouldn't understand this. Or, oh, really? You know how to do this? And it's because it's like a feminine thing, like sewing or whatever. And I find those gender roles, like, really, it just upsets me a lot for some reason that people make assumptions about me based on my gender. So, I don't love gender identity. But it is super important, and yeah. Anyways, that's my own struggle. We don't really need to talk about that. It's just personal anecdote about identity. So I wrote down sentences here which sound like they came from a comedian from the 80s, but they're still true. Men do this, women do that. Men wear this, women wear that. Men watch this, women watch that. Men drink this, women drink that. I mean, we have what we call girly drinks, as if alcoholic consumption somehow gender-based. That's wild, but it exists. Men drive this, women drive that. Again, you can easily know without me saying in any of those sentences what I meant. You already have an idea of what I meant. Meaning you could fill in the blanks. You could fill in the this pronoun and the that pronoun. And you would know somebody, if not many people, who subscribe to the exact belief that is stated there. So, I'm fighting a bunch of guys now, but I gotta change pages. Yeah. Don't you guys know I'm giving a presentation? Oh! You know what? I have this headphone in, and the funny thing is nothing is coming through it because for some reason, again, because I didn't have preparation time, my Bluetooth headset isn't connecting properly, which means I can't hear anything through it, and I don't have the speakers on, so I can't hear anything. So I don't hear any of Elden Ring, and there's no reason for me to have this on. So I'm gonna turn it off. I'm gonna take them off. I really like these. I don't like the little earbuds because I will lose them. These are like earbuds, but they're connected to this thing, and that gives them a battery life because there's more body casing to store the battery in. So I'm just taking this off. I won't hear anything. I won't hear Elden Ring. Nobody cares. There's more. Adults embrace foods as identity, toys, and media as identity. So we're not too different from children. So, you know, I love spaghetti and meatballs. That might not sound like it's an identity statement, but I mean, it is. And here's how you know it is. If you had a good friend and they were like, oh, J-Bo doesn't like spaghetti and meatballs, and you'll be like, I love spaghetti and meatballs. It's like an assault on your identity. It's like, how did your friend not know that you love spaghetti and meatballs? Now all of a sudden there's a conflict in you. Now all of a sudden it's emotional. Well, if you love spaghetti and meatballs isn't a part of your identity, why are you getting emotional about it? There's reasons. It's part of you. And you would expect a friend to know that about you, maybe. You know, I mean, assuming they've been in spaghetti and meatball situations. I'm going to put torrent on my quick bar because, oh no, I don't want that. Got to switch, yeah. Like a torrent, put that right there. That's a nice up for me. So now we whistle and we get a torrent. Dun da da da, run torrent, run. Okay. I'm a Ford truck man. I mean, I come from a pretty rural area. I mean, like I lived in a town that was an old coal mining town, but surrounding it on all sides were farms, cow farms, I don't know, corn farms, wheat farms, farms. Oh, and there's an invisible guy over here somewhere. Where are you? I'm just gonna swing the sword randomly. You're here somewhere. Oh, that's right. He's the tree. Oh, look at that cool goat rolling. Goat roll. Oh, I love watching a goat roll. I wish they did that in real life. If goats rolled in real life, I would have so many pet goats. And I'd chase them around just to watch them roll. Roll, you goat. Roll. Come on. Yeah. Yeah, goat rolling. Oh, goat rolling. Okay, that has nothing to do with identity. Let's get back to the topic. I grew up in this rural town. A lot of farms nearby. I mean, one of my close friends was from a family of chicken farmers. Like, they were widely known as chicken farmers. Like, if you ate eggs in my area, they came from that farm. So just, you know, it's just, that's what it is. And anyways, growing up, hearing people fight about brands of truck. So much fighting about Fords and Chevys. And that's just, I mean, like, it's easy for a person who's not experienced that to make light of it and to laugh about it. But, again, everybody needs these identities, and they have these interests, and they're interested in trucks, engines, things like that. And that's part of their interests. It's not, I'm just bothering the hell out of Balby here. I forget his name. It starts with a B. He's going to go to a cave for me and get the crap kicked out of him. I'm going to have to rescue him. That's later. Oh, there's this big guy. Hey, guy on a horse. How about a sword? Boom! Didn't like that. Didn't like that. Come at him quick. Don't relent. Yeah, yeah. See, I'm brave. The models were having problems. Anyways, okay, I just want to occasionally look at chat and make sure. Okay, no chats. I have 2 watching now. This is not well viewed, but like, look, this is gonna go viral because I'm dropping huge truth bombs while swinging a 2-handed sword. And I mean, if that's not the stuff of viral videos what is. Okay, I'm a Star Wars fan, not a Trekkie is the third thing on this page. A nerd argument, but one I've heard many times. And, you know, these are just like interests. These are just, I mean, they have very little impact on reality in real life. But people get real excited about them, real angry about them, real happy about them. And that's why it becomes an important part of identity. Brands define us. This, I roll my eyes due to my punk rock, late Gen X origins, but, you know, anti-corporate origins. But, you know, oh, I would never eat at McDonald's. I only buy my bags at Gucci. I buy everything I can at Costco, which I generally do. It's not always a good idea, but I do love Costco. I hate Walmart. So many people who live in urban areas say they hate Walmart, and they judge the people who shop there, and it isn't a good idea if you want to be a good human being. Anyways, it's a whole different discussion. My whole feeling about branding, corporate brands, and identity, and like, if you own a bunch of stock in that brand and you make money when they succeed, okay. But I really don't like it that, you know, if somebody praises Arby's a lot and they wear Arby's shirts, they got an Arby's tattoo, like, Arby's isn't doing anything for them in return, and I don't like that relationship. And that's, I mean, again, especially when it is a multi-million or billion-dollar corporation. Again, this is not a necessary part of this talk, but, you know, I get to say the things I want to say. Affiliations give us identity. I'm a New Yorker. I'm Irish Catholic. I'm a soccer mom. I'm a Republican. I'm a loyal brother of Local 235. I'm a union man. I'm a coal miner. I'm a steel worker. I mean, you know, Western Pennsylvania, where I'm from, that is kind of what a lot of the talk used to be about. Not so much anymore, since we don't have steel workers or coal miners anymore. Moving on. Hello, next. Okay. So what's an identity crisis? All right, self is hugely important. It's a hugely important concept for us. So, you know, I talked earlier about the eyeball thing, and I don't have to recount. Oh my God, it's that guy again. We don't want to fight him. I'm not paying enough attention to where I'm going, so it's easy for me to just circle back to, oh God, no. And so I have to be a little more careful. I don't know what I want to do next. I could go get, you know what? I'm not a samurai, but don't you think I should go get the samurai sword? I pushed the wrong button. Never a bad idea to start out with samurai sword. So if I remember where it is. I remember it's in an annoying place with skeletons. What's this over here? Okay, I know where I am. The eyeball thing, the eyeball allegory, if you will, teaches, I think, a lot about why our sense of self is so important. It is really, I mean, what else is there? What else is there to a person than a sense of self? You may have an idea of who I am and stories about me. But inside me, the only thing that exists is the idea of who I am and the stories I tell myself. Your stories can't exist in me. And, you know, we'll get to this when we talk about a certain thing. Oh no, I fell down. No, oh man. Roll. I haven't died yet. Drink a potion. I don't want to die. I don't want to die here. I'm gonna die, but I don't want to die there. We're gonna pick up what is this? Erd tree, golden seed. Yeah. The Erd tree leaving seeds everywhere. That's the whole thing. There's a whole story going on here, but I mean, I so can't talk about that because it would be this would be such a long presentation. I would need days. And people have spent days talking about Elden Ring. Wah! Wah! Come on, wolf. Oh, that wolf want a piece of meat. Wow. Gonna jump over here. Give this guy a little swingo. Little swingo. Aim at him first, Chuck. There we go. Alright. Not bad. Actually kind of bad. I'm hurt. And I think I've maybe somewhat forgotten. Did I grab the map? Okay, I did grab the map. It's over here-ish. Okay, so it's after this cliff. Right, it's going to be a cave up here where I find the katana. I think like right here. Gotta have my katana. I keep pushing the wrong button. Alright, drinky time. Alright, anyways. So if you lose your sense of self, you may have what you might call an identity crisis. Or you will have what you might call an identity crisis. And I keep failing to push the button for horse. But this says, I am here to tell you. What this presupposes is that almost all forms of conflict are an identity crisis. It is someone's identity being challenged. And this includes what you might think are otherwise natural conflicts. Like the conflict over resources. Well, if there are not enough resources and we are fighting over them, why do I think I should have them and you shouldn't? I mean, its root is an animal instinct, right, to survive and procreate. You can blame it on that. I'm talking to this lady, but again, we don't have time to get into her whole deal. She got a cool red cloak, though. So, the psychological aspect of it, though, beyond the biological imperative to survive and reproduce, the psychological aspect, though, will form around the idea of identity. Again, I need to survive. I need this food. So I think even those kind of conflicts have a root in identity. It's not the same as what we might call petty conflicts over identity. Which, again, petty is, I guess, in the eye of the beholder. This is a big guy, and I'm not touching him, so we are not going to wrestle him right now. I'm going to run away. Sorry, my guy. I love you, but I can't fight you right now. Oh, this is a cliff. I don't want to jump off that. How about over here? Whee! I didn't take any damage. And, oh, he's still following me. I'm going to summon my horse. Come on, horse. Bye! Zoom! So, the thing is that most other conflicts between people comes to identity. Does that mean that you can solve them all in some way that's related to identity? No. But part of what I want to talk about is how we can use our understanding of these conflicts to resolve them, and to resolve them in a way that makes us happier people. I guess I should reassign this, because my brain obviously has an association with the right button for summoning horse. And so I might as well just go with what my brain's telling me rather than try to rewire it. Okay, so we're going to talk about some conflicts in popular fiction, which illustrate my point about identity and how I propose they could be addressed. Because I don't want to talk about real life, because they're, it's either depressing or somebody will be mad at me. Romeo and Juliet, Juliet says, wherefore art thou Romeo? Which means, why are you Romeo? She's asking why the man she's fallen in love with is a Montague, which is the enemy of her family. She says, deny thy father and refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. So she's saying, give up your identity, or I'll give up mine, because our identities are what's keeping us apart. And it's family name, but it is identity. Because the family name again, doesn't, I mean, sure, genetically, I guess, it has a bearing on reality. But otherwise, these are just human beings in families. There's nothing realistically about being a Montague or a Capulet that is somehow creating a real division between Romeo and Juliet. It is the collective identities of all the Montagues and all the Capulets who have been feuding for generations or years or however long, it's not clear, and who refuse to give up that feud and see each other as anything other than their identities. The senselessness of the family violence is entirely rooted in their sense of identity. And that's something I think Shakespeare's really talking about here, whether he's talking about it the way I'm talking about it or he's kind of talking about it in a different way. They fight because that's what they do, man. Hey, I'm a Montague. You know, I gotta fight the Capulets. That's who I am. And okay, but it's causing a lot of problems in where the heck was that? Verona? Valencia? Arona? Wherever that takes place, I don't remember. Verona's the gentleman of Verona, but anyways, doesn't matter. Not important to the point here. All right, Citizen Kane, big movie, right? Nobody's seen it. It's the biggest movie that, as far as I could tell, nobody's really seen. But I've seen it, and I am here to tell you that it's also about identity. In it, Charles Foster Kane, who is the main character, is I'm just checking my damage values here. You know what? I'm gonna want more dex. I think I want to do a dex build with this guy, or like not strength dex build. So I'll do both. Charles Foster Kane becomes the richest man in the world, owns a media empire, and also alienates everyone in his life. Just is terrible to everybody. And he pursues wealth and power and throws away all his human relationships. And that is because he essentially only understands bettering himself through gaining wealth and power. And, this isn't a film critique or analysis, so, obviously people will debate the postmodern film critique of Citizen Kane. But in the end, what the mystery of the movie is, which I think most people understand, is Rosebud, which was his sled, blah, blah, blah. The idea is that it was his childhood before, and I mean his parents are very responsible for who he became, but his childhood when things were simple and he had not, destroyed everything human about himself that he longed for. That was his true happiness. Ooh, what's on the ground there? This guy wants to kill me with that thing. I'm not going to let him. Haha. So, in a lot, I think Citizen Kane is a huge, a huge identity conflict. And it is about, how he never clearly has an answer to who he is. He only can ever answer what he wants. And he can't tell you how what he wants is going to improve who he is. Or who he wants to be. So, Citizen Kane, another identity tragedy. I already talked about this, but moving on. The Godfather. I mean, this is a whole. It's just identities on identities. It is all people who have these strong senses of identity and do terrible things to each other because they have this strong sense of identity that dictates inhumanity and immorality according to a code, and they never take a second to evaluate the code and whether it is creating a better world for them or their children or, the general population, whether it adheres to their religious codes, their supposed religious codes, whether it adheres to, their sense of, for instance, being American, or family, and what family means to them, and why they would violate the happiness and safety of other people's families for their own families. They never take a second to evaluate it. I mean, maybe they would come up with some of the same answers in some of the same circumstances, but they don't take a moment to evaluate it. And the central character, Michael Corleone, goes from a character who is thoughtful and critiques this lifestyle of violence, thoughtless violence, in the pursuit of some code, in the pursuit of some ancient idea, or maybe ancient, but some proposed idea of honor and family and secrecy and everything else. He goes from critiquing it to embracing it. And essentially it's because when his father's life is threatened, the identity he has as a thoughtful person, a World War II veteran, a person who admonishes violence. And I think that part of the character is that war experience that tells him that the wages of violence, right, the cost of violence, while simultaneously being a soldier, is rooted in the idea that violence is the solution to problems, certain problems, or that the threat of violence, at the very least. And that character doesn't have a good way to deal with his father's attack, by his thoughtful, critical nature. Like, that identity doesn't offer him a solution. I don't think that I agree with him that it didn't offer a solution. I don't think I empathize that thus he had to embrace the other identity, the identity of Michael Corleone, the gangster, the mafioso, the murderer. But I mean, that's what Michael feels, and I think that that's why Michael is the villain of The Godfather, which I don't think a lot of people talk about. The movie is really about Michael from Kay's perspective, right? We open with Michael at this wedding with Kay. We close the first movie with Michael closing the door on Kay. And it is about the change between those two characters. The Michael we're introduced to with Kay, and then the Michael that closes the door on Kay. And what that means for him and who he is and who he's chosen to be. And I think he's the villain of the piece because, I mean, people embrace him. People love The Godfather. They want to, so many people idealize, like, living or being in that kind of mafia lifestyle. But Michael goes on to destroy the life of the people he loves and has to kill his own brother, watches as his other brother, I mean, he doesn't literally watch, but the conflict that he kicks off results in his other brother being murdered. It results in lots of other people being murdered. And he goes on to murder a lot of people who are close to him when he was young, who he couldn't trust anymore, who betrayed him, again, because of this whole operation that he's chosen to embrace. And so the only real interpretation there is villainy, because there's the essence of villainy. Lives are destroyed for when other options existed. Anyways. Whew, okay, so how do we deal with identity now that I've finally, an hour in, defined it? Luckily, I think now that we have a lot of common language to talk about with identity, I can roll through the next part. And we can move on a little quicker. I have to get back to playing Elden Ring because I'm not fulfilling my end of the bargain. But I unfortunately do need a water refill, so we're going to do a real quick muting of the microphone. A special thanks to my team of live stream helpers who are helping me out with things like water. Got a 50 people over here. Takes a village. All right, identity isn't necessarily a problem. Something I said earlier. It is a solution to a lot of problems, but it's all about framing it and dealing with it, and it's all about confronting it. Because it can drive you to do things that are against moral principles, against your own moral principles. And here are my 3 areas of what I would call moral danger. Hurt others, to take what others need, and to push others to become outsiders instead of welcoming them as neighbors. Those are my 3 big ones as far as morality goes, and what moral action is. I think most morality can be kind of talked about in those terms, and try to be figured out along those 3 axes, if you will. There are others, but when identity causes pain. So when our identity is challenged, that's when we feel internal feelings of conflict and doubt. And it's, cognitive dissonance is kind of a word that gets bandied about that kind of means this. And right now I'm experiencing cognitive dissonance of not remembering where that cave is. I think it might be over this way, where I can get my katana. Yeah, I'd say this is not my best, Elden Ring performance, which I think we all expected when I said I was going to give a talk while playing Elden Ring, that I wasn't going to do that well at Elden Ring. But I'll note, I haven't died yet. So you tell me. Oh, that's one of those guys. What's this guy? Oh, he's a whatchamacallit knight. Gonna jump down here. Okay, let's get back to the talk. When our identity is challenged, in other words, generally we feel like something that is us is being, again, it's hard to maybe put this into words, but it's being challenged in a way that someone is, maybe someone or a situation, it doesn't even have to be a person, is saying you are not really that thing. You are not you are not a good person, or you're not a good father, or you're not a real fan of the Doobie Brothers. And when that kind of identity is challenged, and we maybe don't feel secure about it, because, insecurity is rampant in all of us, and so we rarely feel secure about our identities. If we did, feeling secure about your identity, really you can jump ahead, because if you feel secure about your identity, you probably don't have a lot of problems with all your identities. But I'm willing to bet there are parts of your identity you're not 100% secure about, so why don't you stay tuned? I gotta kill this skeleton while it's down. There we go. I should probably change to the axe, because it's a little bit easier to wield against these skeletons. At any rate, I'm gonna run away first, though. So then we have to figure out what to do next about that identity conflict. Double down a delicious sandwich that KFC had for a while. Oh no, sorry. We could double down on it, which means we're like, no, I am the biggest Doobie Brothers fan. Or we have to retreat from it, which is not something usually we're willing to do, because again, that lessens ourselves. We don't have as many self points, I guess, once we say, okay, well, maybe I'm not a big Doobie Brothers fan. And so, we feel diminished. And none of us wants to feel diminished most of the time, I think. So I think that's probably what the instinct is there. And when we need to prove our identity, and we double down on that, and we say, no, I am a big Doobie Brothers fan, you're going to do some things that are untoward, because now we're in crisis, we're in conflict. And we're going to set aside things like principles and we're going to act out of anger and fear, insecurity. And it's going to lead us to bad places. When I'm talking about identity and locally, I talk a lot about Steelers fans because people understand that. And I talk about when does it being a Steelers fan become a problem? For most people in this area, it's not a problem. Or not just in this area, but there are Steelers fans all over the world. But people get into fistfights over Steelers fandom. And we're talking about two different kinds of fistfights. One is a fistfight between two Steelers fans over perhaps some aspect of Steelers fandom, right? And I'm not just talking about they're drunk at a game and, I don't know, a guy looks at another guy's wife or something. I'm talking about, like, having real fights over the Steelers that may escalate to fistfights, like who the best quarterback is, or this person sucks, or the team sucks. No, they don't. And then also fights with other teams' fans, like fights with Ravens fans and Browns fans or whoever. And it's always a thing for me as a person who grew up as a Steelers fan and had strong feelings as a Steelers fan, and would be, and I still am, sad when they lose and happy when they win. And it's amazing to me that still that it can escalate to that level. I'm sorry, I stopped playing Elden Ring for a second, which I'm not supposed to do. But it does. It happens. And that probably shouldn't happen. So, oh, whoops. I think I accidentally went back. All right, we're going forward again. Most Steelers fans, though, aren't willing to get into fistfights. Okay, so we're not talking about, like, a real, like, cultural issue here. We're just talking about that some people have feelings that are that level of strength, right? Or whatever you want to call it. And you see I'm doing better switching to the axe because it's more easy to wield one-handed, and that gives me a lot more control in these tight spaces to kill skeletons. So most people, when the Steelers win, they're happy. When they lose, they're sad. And that's, like, defines Steelers fandom to them, and they'll get into maybe an argument or debate about the Steelers with somebody. But they're not going to get into a fist fight, and that's fine. And they're fine with that level. And if somebody said, well, if you're not willing to get into a fist fight about the Steelers, then you're not a real fan, they'd be like, I don't get that. I mean, I don't know that they would say, well, then I guess I'm not a real fan, but that might be the right response to a person who's insisting that, because you can define the fandom for yourself inside yourself. You don't really have to live up to other people's standards. Look at that. I got a little bit of secret tunnel here. Go and get this guy. Anyways, so still, like, if you live in this area, I haven't worked in an office for a while, to be fair, with Pittsburghers. I work remotely now. And to be fair, it still is a little weird how sad everybody is on a Monday when the Steelers lose. But anyways, all right. I've taken, you know what? I've gone too long without a call to action. So let's go over to the big board and put 5calls.org right on the screen there. Right over the Elden Ring. And I'll go back to my message about calling your Congress people, and we'll get back to the presentation, which is going to take forever. How far am I in now? I'm at, like, I've got to be an hour and a half in. Whew. Okay, this is going to be a long one. I'm sorry, but you're going to learn a lot. So, you know, it's worth it. I'm not going to fly through the end, but it probably will go a little faster as we go. But anyways, 5calls.org. Go to that site, and it will tell you phone numbers to call. You can just dial them up and leave a message to your representative and your two senators, both of them. Say, hey, we need to fund the CFPB. The CFPB has returned almost $3 to consumers for every dollar it has spent, and it doesn't even spend taxpayer money. Why would you cut the funding for this vital bureau, this vital government agency that's providing a vital service to prevent another financial crisis? You know, I mean, those are my words, but you can use them. We also have a script. I don't have the link handy to put. Oh no, I died. Oh man, I gotta go get my souls back. I don't have the link handy. This room sucks. I hate these skeletons so bad. There are easier ways to take care of them than what I'm doing. To be fair, you can cheese them pretty easy, but I'm not doing that, so it's annoying. Now I'm back in the death-touched catacombs. Call them up. Tell them, put the funding back in the CFPB. The CFPB is vitally important. We don't want another financial crisis. Tell them about what happened to you if you survived the 2008 financial crisis and it had an effect on you. I know, for instance, that my wife lost her job because research funding got cut as a result of companies having to pull back in 2008. You know, friends and people lost money when the stock market had tanked. You know, my own 401k had problems in that period, so I relate. Tell them what happened to you and that you don't want it to happen again. 5calls.org. Make the calls. Do it every day if you can. If you can't do it every day, do it every day, you know, that you think of it, that you remember, that you have time. I mean, whatever. A one call on one day is better than no calls ever. So even if I ask you to call every day, which I am asking, if you can't, that doesn't mean call nuns. It means, you know, call when you can. All right. 5calls.org. All right. That's my ask before the skeleton kills me. I am going to put that away and go back to the talk the Steelers fan example, which I think I'm basically done with. How not to be a problem. This is my call to live morally, and it is about making sure your identity and the issues around your identity don't become a problem. Let's be better people, right? Let's be better. Identity may cause some problems. We can use identity to fix them too. And this is where I'm going to introduce an idea, principles as identity. I mean, this is like an easy way to think of how you can fix, if you have any problems with identity, fix those problems to say, well, this part of my identity, or maybe you invent a new part of your identity, and you say this part of my identity has this principle that I won't violate because the principle is what gives me a sense of self. Here I'm going to talk about Socrates, but and this isn't. I'm going to talk about just that this isn't like a new or revolutionary idea. I'm kind of phrasing in terms of identity something that people have said before, or an idea or concept that's been around. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. It's just that sometimes we need to think about things in new and interesting ways to kind of let them break through our mind, because, you know, a lot of times hearing something the same way over and over again, we kind of just, it goes into the background. We don't really think about it anymore. So finding new ways to think about things a lot of times is a good way to introduce new ideas, even though they're old ideas, to your mind or to others who might be like, I'm sick of hearing about that. But if you tell it to them in a different way. Anyways, I talk about Socrates here, but I'm going to talk about a play called A Man for All Seasons, which is about, oh darn, and I've completely blanked, which is a very typical thing that happens to my brain. I've blanked. Thomas More. There we go. Sir Thomas More. Saint Thomas More. I think he was a saint. I think he's a saint also. He's a saint, I think, in the Catholic Church because basically he refused when Henry created the Anglican Church. It was like, I don't want to be a Catholic anymore because I want to divorce everybody. Regardless, this play about Thomas More is a very good play, regardless of how you feel about King Henry, Catholic Church, Anglicanism, whatever. Because it is about Thomas More sticking to his principles when the destruction of himself and indeed his family and himself and his family is on the line. In other words, he could say, you know what, I am cool with the king's divorce. And there's the Uchigatana, the katana I was looking for. So I'm just going to equip that now. Now we're going to be just absolutely ninja swording up this place. Katana is not actually a ninja sword. And I can't use it yet. My dex needs to be higher. Garbage, 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 garbage. Well, that's why we get XP, I guess. Not XP, runes. So Thomas More is at the point where it's like, my dude, if you just say, I'm cool with the king's divorce, everything is going to be fine. And your daughter will be fine, and your wife will be fine, and you'll be let out of prison, and everything will be cool. But Thomas More says that when a man takes an oath, he's talking here about, a particular thing, but it's really about self and identity, I think, as well. When a man takes an oath, he holds himself in his hands like water. And if his fingers, should crack even a little bit, this is not the exact words, but if his fingers should open just even a little bit, he'll lose himself forever. He'll never be able to put himself back together because the water will escape once it's out of his hands. He can no longer hold himself in his hands. And what he's saying is, once you've broken an oath, what is left of who you are? I think that's a valid question. It's not just about breaking an oath, though. There are reasons, I think, to break an oath you could still, maintain this sense of self by using other principles. Sometimes, obviously, there is a conflict of two principles, both of which seem good, but, are at odds. So you have to find what's the right recourse. And so, that is a time when maybe this idea of never failing an oath is not all it's cracked up to be. But identity is like that, if you act against your identity and if you hold a principle to be very important and you violate it later, you are going to feel an absolute crisis of self, crisis of faith, maybe crisis of whatever, moral crisis, but it is going to be an identity crisis because it is something that you've held to that is a part of yourself and then you violate. So you have to be very careful when thinking about identity or principles as identity, because it needs to be a principle you can stick with. And oh god, I'm on fire. It needs to be a principle that you won't, that if you're going to really embrace it as part of who you are, that it's not going to be thrown away so easily. Because it's not going to make it incredibly difficult or impossible for you to live your life. That's another thing. For better or worse. For better or worse, skeletons. I am gonna die. All right, so I'm not getting better and better against skeletons, so I'm gonna run back. I picked up my runes. I got my Uchigatana. I'm going to spend those runes and keep talking about identity. So Thomas More, that play, I highly recommend. It's a movie twice over. One of them has, the less good movie has Sean Connery in it, I think, as Thomas More. That one's not as good. There's another one that's much better. I think they're both called A Man for All Seasons. I'm not sure. Go check it out. You can watch the movie. Or if somebody's doing it as a play, go check out the play. Not quite enough to wield the Uchigatana. But There are always more runes to get. So here Socrates says, moving on to kind of the next point, because the Thomas More thing was separate, but I just didn't put it in here, and I realized I want to talk about that. Socrates said the shortest and surest way to live with honor in the world is to be in reality what we would appear to be. And if we observe, we shall find that all human virtues increase and strengthen themselves by the practice and experience of them. He's basically saying, like, kind of fake it till you make it. He's saying that for me, another way of saying this is like, what is an honorable person except someone who appears to be honorable, who wishes to be honorable, who is honorable inside themselves and to everyone else? Like, everyone can agree this person's honorable, including the person themselves. And that, they're not undertaking dishonorable actions because that they live in every way as if they were an honorable person. And then they'll be an honorable person. And that is what I say about principles. If you want to be XYZ, whatever that thing is, but it, is a good person, an honorable person, a kind person, the best kind of thing you can do is just act like a kind person. Pretend to be a kind person if that's what it takes. And by pretending that or just doing the actions, you're going to find that that's what a kind person is. A kind person is a kind person who sees themselves as kind, who does kind things, who other people see as kind, who skeletons absolutely murder in a crypt while they're just trying to wield a katana. It's a bad day for Katana Man. Oh man, Rusty, come on. So, when you decide what principles you might want to follow, or what might be a good thing to add to your identity, I don't want to say build your identity on. You probably don't need to rebuild your entire identity. But if you think there's a flaw with yourself, you want to add something to your identity, you want to refine your identity, it's kind of as simple as thinking about what you want to be and doing it. But it's not always that easy. That's why this slide exists. We're ruled by emotions, and a lot of those emotions connect back to our identity. So when our identity is challenged, our emotions come out, which means it's hard to both live up to a positive identity and, be okay when it's challenged. That's probably the most difficult thing, is to be what you want to be, but also be okay if someone says or does something that would make it appear that they don't agree with what you're saying about yourself. Or saying that you are. So anyways, having that principle as an identity, that was something you can latch onto in those moments to call back yourself, to say, no, I'm a person who does this. I'm not a person who does that. And that might be a refuge in a desperate moment. But we can't wait for ourselves to be in conflict to decide what our identity should be, or if it's good, or if it's hurting us. We have to think about it in other times, and we have to think through, well, if I'm this kind of person, what would I do in this situation? Or what did I do in that situation? And it's not about beating yourself up. It's about examining and deciding what about your identity, what identity caused you to do that, what dissonance upset you, why were you upset, and how can you prevent being upset in the future? Because it's likely you might want to do something different next time. Maybe not. That's, I guess not. That's not my business. But asking these questions in peaceful times makes it easier to act on them in stressful times. So there's an old, what would you do? Is like, there's an old Nickelodeon show called What Would You Do? And I don't think I ever watched it. I think it's a Nickelodeon show. And I don't think I ever watched it, but I'm like aware of it. Anyways, that's just why this dumb title exists. So anyways, I just wrote this up to kind of summarize. If you know who you want to be, then you need to know what that person does when presented with problems and conflicts. How does that person treat those who need help? How does that person treat those who are aggressive, offensive, or insulting? How does that person feel about people with different identities and opinions and ideas? How does that person treat those people? Because othering and excluding is the easiest way to affirm identity. Something I didn't really talk about before, but I'll just talk about here. I think there's a slide later that does talk about it, but regardless, by saying these people are not like me, not like us, they not like us, you are creating an identity for yourself by saying they're not like us. Those people are those people, and I am one of other people, these people. But what are you doing there? Are you now going to assume they're not like you in a lot of ways, that they're not moral, that they're not good, that they're not relatable, that they're not deserving of love? Because when we other people, if those are the kinds of things that we start to attribute to them, that is where, not to be simplistic about it, but that's where evil comes from. That's why bad stuff happens. Because we don't believe that people are deserving of love, peace, and life. So back to principles. If a part of our identity is principles, then we can embrace those principles as lines we don't cross, saying, I'm not a person who will do this thing. And then, that is maybe the mantra you repeat to yourself, the prayer you say when that is challenged, when you are stressed to a point where you want to take an action that you've said before isn't who you are. And that's going to be difficult. It's not as simple as just saying that's not who I am and then moving on. It's challenging. And the repetition of these principles to yourself and the thoughtfulness about them in times, again, of peace, not of strife, is how you're going to be able to create those identities and have them stick with you. So, I want to introduce your two greatest foes in living up to principles and struggling with identity: pride and shame. Those are our two greatest enemies. Here's a great fun reference to, oh god, skeletons. Oh, I can't believe I dodged that. Fun reference to Pulp Fiction, where Marcellus Wallace says, the night of the fight, you may... I'm not going to do the voice. I'll do a little bit of the voice. The night of the fight, you may feel a slight sting. That's pride effing with you. F pride. Pride only hurts. It never helps. You fight through that S. Again, I'm trying not to swear because, just family friendly. I know I said a swear earlier, but shh. Okay. Pride is... oh, whoops. I think I skipped past something. Did I skip past something? Yeah. No. Yeah. Pride is the feeling that your identity is more important than important moral principles, right? Something about you is more important than a principle like, I won't harm someone. I won't say something hurtful, right? This is where it's easy to hurt family and friends when you get into an argument and they frustrate you and you decide that whatever it is about them that's frustrating to you, maybe you feel like you're not being appreciated, maybe you feel like they are belittling you, maybe you should apologize but you don't want to. That's pride. Pride saying, this is more important, so I'm going to say something hurtful. I'm going to refuse to apologize. I'm going to seek out harming them. I want them to feel pain. We're letting... if we sit down and map out our principles, I hope that those are things we say we don't want to do to people. But in those moments of stress, that's where we're going to let ego and pride overcome what we've decided are our principles. So now that principle doesn't matter because I feel hurt. And so pride is going to be the thing that screws you up at those moments. And the more you can accept that a challenge to your identity is not the same thing as actually losing your identity, the better off you'll be. The more that someone can say something hurtful to you, and you can fall back on yourself and say, I don't think that about myself. The time for considering whether they're right or wrong is later. I'm just going to let it go right now. That will help you. Shame is the feeling that your identity is unacceptable, unlovable, or wrong. And I'll get deeper into that. But first I want to just expound on pride a little bit. It's not sticking to an important principle or fighting for who you are. It is not about that. It's about fighting when the principle isn't important or the identity quality isn't important. It's about violating deeper principles for lesser identity qualities. It's about punching someone in the face because they challenge whether or not you're a real Steelers fan. Because I hope that we shouldn't hurt other people is a more important principle than I am the greatest Steelers fan. That's how we have to rank things, and that's what we have to repeat to ourselves so that we don't have a crisis where we let a challenge to our identity overcome a principle. And we need to make that principle part of our identity a stronger part of identity than the thing that is being challenged. And that's why principles as identity is kind of what I'm preaching here. Make those principles strong enough parts of your identity that they're unchallengeable. That when a lesser part of your identity is challenged, the stronger part of your identity, the principal part of your identity, takes over. Anyways, so that's what that is. And Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction didn't actually throw the fight for pride, or didn't win the fight. He didn't throw the fight because he bet hugely on himself. He didn't care about pride. Pride was not the issue. He did it for money. Which in its own way might be pride, but we're not here to evaluate that. Shame. So sometimes you might get the feeling that, sorry, I've just looked over chat and saw Gabe say Thomas More was looking for a katana. I might have gotten a little confused about how I was sorting things out earlier. Thomas More probably wouldn't have wanted a katana in those moments. It reminds me of Thomas More's the play about Thomas More, the A Man for All Seasons, which is a great play. It reminds me of similarly a dialogue by Plato about Socrates, which in and of itself is kind of like a play called, oh man, my philosophy professor would be so upset with me. Dang it. Well, regardless, it's about Plato's death, or it's about Socrates' death, and that his friends come to rescue him when he's been sentenced to death by drinking hemlock. His friends come and say, we'll free you, and Socrates says, no, because it's not the laws that are at fault, and if I leave jail, then I'll be violating the laws, and the laws haven't done anything to me. It is people who have done things to me. And they won't be hurt by me breaking the laws. The laws will be hurt. I mean, that's kind of, maybe I'm oversimplifying it. It's been years since I discussed this dialogue, but the point is that it's similar in that Thomas More had opportunities to get out of his predicament, but they would violate his principles, so he chose not to do them. So shame is the idea that your identity is unacceptable or wrong. And while it's worth investigating that, because if you think you're flawless, that's probably your greatest flaw. I'm going to bring that up the next time I have to do an interview for a job. And they're like, what's your greatest weakness? I'm going to be like, my greatest weakness is that I don't believe I have any weaknesses. The idea, though, that you are unlovable because of your beliefs, or that you are less than, or, oh god, a black knife assassin. I forgot this fight is going to be ridiculously hard. And I'm going to try and do it while talking about identities. Anyways, oh, that may have helped. Shame is telling you that something that's perfectly valid about yourself is, leaving you unloved, is hated by other people is not really accepted. I mean, it's especially that kind of like nagging doubt about ourselves that our friends don't really like us, that they don't find validity in what we say or believe about ourselves, that they don't mean what they say. That's another thing. And that's everyone. I mean, my basic philosophy is everybody is deserving of love by virtue of them being a human, and like no action can take that away, because like they can't do anything to go beyond being deserving of love. And this is not a religious belief. This is purely a practical stance on morality for me. I don't have religious beliefs. This is practical because it is about recognizing everyone's humanity, so that no one, if you are recognizing everyone's humanity, then you will never, then we would be incapable of being inhumane to one another. If we are always in a place where we say everyone is deserving of love, if everybody agrees to that sentiment and then acts on it, I mean, they also have to behave as if it is a maxim, then we would become nearly incapable of being inhumane to one another. And can't we agree, I hope, again, that we can agree that being humane to each other and eliminating inhumanity, it should be a goal for everybody. So based on that basic principle, I mean, everybody's deserving of love. Again, not a religious belief, purely a practical belief. So, put that in your pipe and do pipe things with it. All right, my dexterity is almost good enough for the Uchikatana now. So that is going to be life-changing. Once you see me, when you folks see me get out here with that Uchikatana, you are going to be impressed. I'm going to have a whole new identity in your eyes. So find good principles and identify with them. That's a good way to be better. Now, this is the part where you're like, okay, well, Chuck, tell me the good principles. Nope. I refuse. Again, I talk about things like, well, I hope we can all agree that we should eliminate inhumanity. Obviously, people are still inhumane to each other. So even though maybe we can, like, what would you say, intellectually agree to that, people aren't acting that way, right? Well, just because people don't act that way doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't mean it's not still the correct moral stance for a situation. The universe, here's what I say to people, and this is my most interesting thing, one of my more interesting observations, I guess, about the universe. And it goes back to this weird thing that the historical assassins, the creator of the historical assassins, Hashashin, in the Middle East, would be modern day Iran, but regardless, the creator of that organization, if you want to call it that, at the time had this quote, and it's actually featured in the Assassin's Creed games, but they don't really do anything interesting with it, and I don't know that the original gentleman was doing anything interesting with it either. I find it interesting when I think about it in a certain way. I'm beating around the bush. The point is, the statement is, everything is permitted. If you think about that, it sounds extremely bad. But it is the descriptive, it is a description of the universe in which we live. Everything that you're physically capable of doing, the universe allows you to do, moral or immoral. The universe that we live in, doesn't matter what you believe religiously, spiritually, etc. The universe that we live in allows people to be immoral, or amoral even, which is a different word, but we're not going to get into that. It allows people to do the wrong things. So you cannot, I got to help the guy. I got to help a jar. That's a whole thing. So I'm going to wait 1 second, then I'll go up there and help him. But we got to talk about that jar for sure. If you haven't played Elden Ring, it's going to blow your damn mind. So the universe lets us do the wrong thing, which means we can't look to reality. We can't look around us and physically say, well, murder's obviously wrong because I can't murder anybody. Like, no, that's exactly the problem. Rolling a ball uphill eternally, like, perpetual motion machines aren't morally wrong. The universe doesn't allow them, but that doesn't make them morally wrong. We don't judge things that way. And the universe isn't actually even clear about what it can and can't do, for crying out loud. It looks like, at the middle, the center of a black hole, we divide by zero, and everybody knows that's not a good thing. So the universe isn't even consistent about that. Point being, you're not going to find the answers in the world, I don't think. And you're not going to find them by appealing to an authority, by finding one person who is right about everything. I don't think. So if there's not a central authority and it's not in the world, where do we find the right principles? I think you look around and you find out what people have agreed on for thousands of years and what has stood the test of time. What you will find is that people say X, Y, and Z, and they don't do X, Y, and Z. That is a problem with humans, but when you look at what everybody thought were the best ideas and continues to think are the best ideas, what they preserved over and over and over again, I think that's where you are going to find the best principles. And you need to find them for yourself. Because if I tell you them, or some other guy tells you them, or lady, or non-binary person, or jar, this is a jar, the jar man, Alexander the jar man. We're going to talk about him in a second. Because we got to, because he's a jar man. So look around and find principles that seem to be things that everybody can agree on. All right. Before we tackle the big stuff, let's talk about, he's a jar. Let's talk about Alexander the Jar. He's happy to see me. He's Alexander the Iron Fist, and he wants help. I'm going to choose to help him out. Again, this game does not give you a lot of agency, so again, identity is very, what would you say? It's deterministic here. It's not, free will is not a big factor in this game. You make choices, but they're very limited. Anyways, I'm going to hit him in the butt. He doesn't like it. He says, ouch. Oh, but I freed him. And I got an emote. And now I'm friends with a jar. To be fair, I think, in fantasy settings, elves and dwarves and gnomes and whatnot, dragons, have been overdone. Jars, no. Jars, not overdone. So I like Alexander the Jar, Iron Fist Alexander the Jar Warrior, Warrior Jar, whatever. Great. Now, I think we need more pottery-based items in our fantasy. He's heading eastward. That's a whole different thing. Alexander the Jar Man is encountered throughout the game. And, it's a whole thing. There's other jar people. It's, again, a whole thing. And I know that's not the point of this stream, but it was a jar man. I had to talk about Alexander the Jar Man. But let's tackle the big stuff. So we've talked a lot about identity and blah, blah, blah. But the title of this is America's Identity Crisis. Okay? Now, to me, what I've set up to this point is America's identity crisis. It's everybody's identity crisis. It's everywhere in the world where there are crises between people who otherwise have no reason to fight, but they fight anyway. It comes to identity and how important it is to us, and how when it is challenged, we must double down, or we feel we must double down, because we don't feel like we have other options. Once you open up yourself to other options, then you get the Uchigatana. Once you open yourself up to other options, you can become a much more, what I think, moral person. Because you're not defending identity and hurting people because you can't figure out who you are. Or because the people around you insist that everybody is X and thus we must fight Y. And I'm not blaming anyone who's in those situations, because life is hard. And there are harder things to think about. And what seems right in the moment is easy to do. It's easy to do what feels right in the moment rather than trying to determine what's actually right. That leads us to a lot of bad decisions. And I don't blame people for that, and I don't shame people for that. People around the world make those decisions, and I don't judge them. I should say I judge the hell out of them, but I don't judge them in a final way. I don't judge who they are as an entity. I judge what they are doing, which might reflect on who they are as an identity, right? But again, everyone is deserving of love. It doesn't matter if I judge them harshly to be people doing bad things. I don't think that quote unquote makes them bad people. Maybe it does make them bad people, whatever, but they're still people deserving of love. They're people who could be good, I believe. They're people who could be helped. They're people who could be healed. Anyways, so I just think all this stuff comes down to the same principles we've been talking about. It's all Citizen Kane. It's all Romeo and Juliet. It's all whatever the third movie was. Ghostbusters? I forget now. Jurassic Park? What's the identity crisis in there? I'm a dinosaur. You're a guy on a toilet. I'm going to eat you. What was that third movie? Pulp Fiction? No, that was a different thing. It doesn't matter. I got a Uchi-Katana now. Let me show you what that does. I can walk up on this guy like, oh, this, okay, I'm not going to kill this guy. This character makes me so sad. He's got this thing on his head, and if you just stand around him and watch him, he, like, bangs it with his big hammer, like he's trying to get, it's just sad. I don't need to kill that poor fool. He's living a sad life. I know that it's just a video game, but if that doesn't, if it doesn't count at all, then why am I even concerned about the, other stuff? Why do I even want to be the Elden Lord if I can't think for myself as, a person outside this game? Anyways, the actual identity crisis in America. I think one thing I will say about America's identity crisis is, oh, and John, are you late? No, you're not late. Everybody arrives exactly when they are meant to. The good news is when I'm done, you can rewind and watch it again. Or you can rewind now and watch it again. I don't care. It's fine. Everybody who watches and does anything is good by me. Actually, before we go into the third one, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring up all our text while you can watch this guy fiddle. Love the fiddling. I'm going to bring up our links, and I'm going to do another call to action. And I'm going to do that because this stream isn't complicated enough. Ta-da! Another Rubik's Cube that isn't solved. I'm going to solve it. I have my wife got me a Rubik's Cube. I leave it in the packaging. Just want to show it off. My wife got me a Rubik's Cube. It's a Wednesday Rubik's Cube. And all the sides are essentially black or gray. They're different shades of white and gray. And it is damn near impossible to solve. And so it stays in the package. But this one is like an Ridge Rubik's Cube. The one I solved earlier is like a really smooth Rubik's Cube. It has like magnets in it that make it so that it like clicks into place with the magnets, but it's very easy to do. This one is the traditional Rubik's Cube. It's a little bit harder to twist, but it's one that probably most people have experienced. They are not any different in how you solve them, just how it feels when you solve them. The Wednesday one is just a huge pain in the butt because the colors are way too close to each other, and it's very hard. It's like, it's not quite, just a Rubik's Cube where all the sides are red or something, but it is close, and it's harmful to my mental wellness, so we're not going to do it. I don't identify as a person who solved that Rubik's Cube. We're going to talk about that, maybe. We should talk about that. It has to do with gender identity and how people belittle gender identity, and that's fine. That's not fine, but it's what was I trying to say? It is. I forget what the thought was there, but it didn't come out right. Let me go back. I'm going to rewind and say it again. It's about people insulting gender identity or kind of like making fun of it in a way, but what they don't realize is that when they say other things like I identify as a ham sandwich, it actually reveals the the flaw in the argument, because of course you could identify as a ham sandwich, but what does it mean? Because we don't have cultural identity that means ham sandwich. It's just not a thing. But if I tell you I identify as a woman, even though I might appear as a man, not I don't personally, but let's just say for an example, I don't really. Again, we go back to the earlier discussion where gender identity is like a thing I don't really embrace, and so I don't really consider it a part of my identity. So I don't say I identify as either gender. But most people address me as a man and treat me like a man, and I'm mostly okay with it, except when they say, like, well, you can't take care of your children, you're a man. And then again, that challenges a different part of my identity, which is like parenting and fathering, and I'm very proud of how hard I've worked to take care of my children and how much time I spent with them when they were babies, and how much, you can see already, it gets me pretty angry. So when people are like, well, dads don't know how to handle, makes me pretty upset. So you can see that gender identity is actually having the opposite effect on me, where it's not that you challenge my manliness, it's that you challenge my other identities because of my manliness, whereas my manliness is not an important thing. Anyways, if you say I identify as a ham sandwich, no one knows what that means. But if I say I identify as a woman, even though I appear as a man, you have at least an understanding of what that means. Maybe that I prefer she pronouns, probably. Maybe I wear dresses and makeup, because those are things that feminine people in our society do. Maybe that I feel closer to feminine roles, or I feel more like a woman, whatever that means to me. Which again, to me personally as Chuck, means nothing, because I'm so anarchist, I'm so iconoclastic about gender, then it doesn't mean anything to me. Except what other people tell me it means. But if you're out there and it means something to you and it's important to you, great. My iconoclastic, and this actually is something I struggled with, because I didn't understand trans people or non-binary people, because I was like, why do you even care? But that's my identity. My identity is, why do you even care? Their identity is that they do care, and that's fine. And we can get along, because my identity of why do you care is mine. And it doesn't have to be everybody's. I don't have to tear down those walls. I can tear down the walls of oppression. I can tear down the walls of judgment by challenging ideas like a man doesn't know how to take care of his children, or a man isn't a good parent by default. I can challenge those ideas without tearing down all of gender identity, or without tearing down other people's ideas of gender identity. Because it's mine, and it's not mine's not hurting anybody. Theirs isn't hurting anybody. What's hurting people is judgment and oppression. Those can be eliminated without everybody having to be they, them, for instance. Not that I want that. It's just, again, when you're kind of like iconoclastic, or you're want to tear down these ideas about gender, it can lead you to the idea that, like, well, then it shouldn't be important to anybody. But that's the wrong idea. And I apologize to anybody in my life who was harmed by any attitude I ever expressed in that direction, because I realized later that some people weren't being fully themselves because they knew how I felt and about being very anti-gender roles, and they felt like that would reflect poorly on them. And anyways, personal story. Point is, I've not had the opportunity to apologize to everybody, and they aren't watching this stream because there's 3 people watching it. None of them are definitely the people, but maybe later some person will watch, where something I said about gender identity and tearing down gender identity may have made them feel alienated. I'm sorry about that. Now, 5calls.org, Rubik's Cube. How did I get from Rubik's Cube? Who knows? I remember now, actually, because I always remember my digressions, and we don't need to digress into my digression. Rubik's Cube, 5calls.org. Go to 5calls.org, find your local representative and your 2 senators, and call them and tell them the CFPB, founded by Dodd-Frank, having returned $22 billion, more than $22 billion, to consumers. $22 billion is a big number, by the way. it's hard to imagine $1 billion, trust me, but it's big. $22 billion to American consumers. I believe over 200 million American consumers have been impacted by our actions and in their favor. And oh, you know what? I screwed that up. Rubik's Cube. I'm sorry. And so, if people maybe you have been impacted by the CFPB's actions. I hope so. And I hope if you haven't yet that, you are someday, assuming, and I mean, not all of us, maybe not all of us have been victims of fraud or abuse from a financial institution. So, I mean, and that would be great, honestly. I would be extremely happy if the CFPB was standing around and everybody was following the rules. Now, that doesn't mean you can defund the CFPB, because again, I mentioned this last stream. As soon as you take your eyes off the ball, as soon as you say, well, we're not going to watch for that anymore, we're not going to regulate that anymore, that's when people will do the wrong things because they know they can. Duh. So call that senator, call that representative, tell them every day, hey, you need to fund the CFPB. You need to protect the CFPB. The CFPB needs to function for the good of our society and our economy. Our jobs depend on things like the CFPB, not just the CFPB, but certainly the CFPB plays a role. If the markets crash, guess what? Most businesses depend on things like loans. Most of them. Oh, okay. Gabe says it's $21 billion. I've been saying 22. So I'm sorry. I believe Gabe. He knows a lot more than me. Anyways, yes, and Gabe brings up an excellent point, which is that I'm not also mentioning the harm that CFPB prevents by watching over banks and having regulations. Anyways, the point is that, back to what I was saying, businesses depend on loans that kind of float them day to day. Like a lot of times when they need new inventory, they might not have the cash on hand to get that loan, and they need a loan for short term. They get that loan, and then they make the money off of the product, and then they pay back the loan in a very short order. And these loans kind of make all business run. And most people don't really think about them, because lots of people, don't run small businesses where that's a requirement, but it happens every day. Even with like a McDonald's franchise, maybe, it's widespread. Well, when the market crashes and interest rates shoot through the roof because now stocks aren't a safe investment and people turn to safer investments like bonds. Well, to buy more bonds, once you start buying up bonds, the interest rates on the bonds go down, which means bondholders make less money, which means interest rates on loans have to go up because banks want to make money off that. So, as bonds go down, interest rates go up. I think I'm saying this correctly. I never took an Econ 101, but the point is that even those kind of business loans that were easy to get before and that floated businesses and kept businesses in business disappear, and businesses go out of business. So those crises hurt everybody, and luckily we have actually been pretty good at avoiding them for a long time, and that's because we've always had regulators like the CFPB in business to watch those markets. Even before, like, the CFPB took over some kind of new regulatory space and created some new ideas about regulations of certain products, but even the products that really cause the problem aren't regulated by the CFPB, they're regulated by somebody else. Credit default swaps being the issue. CFPB doesn't look at credit default swaps. They're not a consumer product. I talked about that earlier in the stream. And now I got to pay attention, because now I'm going to F up this Rubik's Cube, because I have to think about what I'm doing a little bit. But it's a shame. The CFPB keeps those personal loans and things in check so that those markets don't crash other markets. But even before the CFPB, a lot of the stuff the CFPB does now was done under under other auspices before Dodd-Frank. Dodd-Frank just moved those things to the CFPB. So it's not like the regulations didn't exist before the CFPB. So it's not like, oh, well, everything's been fine, so the CFPB didn't need to be created. No, the CFPB was doing what the CFPB does was being done before. So you can't just pretend that everything is fine. This won't happen again. Everything's cool, and you don't need the CFPB. It doesn't make any sense. You take the cop off the beat, and criminals are going to come out. I mean, something related to my Godfather talk earlier if you need to. So please call every day. Again, that will not be the weirdest thing your representatives or senators have heard, because they get weird calls all the time. So call them every day and tell them you have to restore the CFPB's funding and make sure they're out there doing their work, or there will be another financial crisis and we will hold you responsible. When banks get bailed out again, we will hold you responsible. No banker gets arrested. No banker goes to jail, I guess. At least that's what history tells us. But your senator can get fired pretty easy. A lot of them did. There was a lot of backlash, actually, to the bailouts. But we don't have to have them if everybody just, funds the CFPB. We also have, and it disappeared. Did it disappear? Where's that stop vote link? Stop vote link? Did you disappear? Oh, I think I moved it too far. Okay. Oh, well, it's all part of one thing. I don't want that. I just want this link. Can I move just that link? Okay. You can see I'm an expert at this software already. Yeah, and Gabe is saying some great stuff in the chat, so please read Gabe's comments because he is bringing it hard. Was spread over multiple agencies. It's a great point, so it was really hard for them to coordinate. And the authority to prevent abusiveness is unique to the CFPB. And a lot of what the CFPB has accomplished to make your life better in the last 10 years that you might not even know about is unique to us. And I should do a stream all about that sometime, but I don't have the facts in front of me. I know some of them off the top of my head, but I'm not an expert because, again, I'm a software engineer. So I don't get to do lawyering things and cool stuff like that. So we have this petition, change.org/stopvote, VOUGHT. That is the name of our acting director. We feel as if I feel, again, I should have said this earlier, not representing, not speaking in my position as a government official, and I'm not speaking on behalf of my union, but certain of us, including myself, feel that the director isn't working in the best interest of the American people. I would encourage you to go read that petition, and if you agree, sign it. I think you'll probably agree. Again, man, all that, a lot of stuff that we're all dealing with right now drips with identity crisis, and I'll leave it at that. But unhappy people make other people unhappy. That's all I'll say. And it's just very true in the world. It's unfortunate. I would do whatever I could to bring happiness to people so that they did not have to take out their unhappiness on others. So if you're in a position of authority in the world and you just need a friend and someone to talk to, I'm available. Leave a comment. I don't know. Like and subscribe. But do anything other than just hurt random people around you, because we can get through this together. There's nothing that we can't figure out for you. There's nothing that we can't get you, I mean, it might be hard for people to forgive you for certain things you've done, depending on what those things are. But we can help you turn over a new leaf. I can help you turn over a new leaf. We can make new friends. And you can apologize to people, and even if they don't accept your apology, you'll feel better about yourself. So if you're a person in a position of power in the United States and you're just feeling bad about yourself and you need a friend, reach out. I'm here. I'm here solving Rubik's Cubes. I realize, like, I don't hold it up, so you might be like, oh, that guy has solved Rubik's Cubes that he's just picking up after he's done talking. But look, I can't deal with that. If you're saying that at home, then you have the issue. I don't have the issue. You have a lot of trust issues going on. I realize I'm looking at my light instead of looking at the camera, but it's approximately the same place. That's a you issue. All right, let's talk to this vendor and continue to talk about America's identity crisis, which again, I'll give you the long and short if you have to walk away for a little bit. It's just everybody's identity crisis spread out. Okay. Let's see what this guy has. I don't know if I can use my Uchigatana now, so now I'll spend some runes on some stuff. Ooh, buy smithing stones, because you know what I can do with those is improve my Uchigatana. Yeah. All right. So the American identity crisis isn't new or recent. What I find interesting about America, this is something that's been observed by other people in other ways, but just to reiterate it. You can go to France and you can live in France and you can even become a French citizen, but you won't really be French. You can go to China and become a Chinese citizen. You won't be Chinese. Those are places with identities that overlap with nationalities. They're nation states. And interestingly, America is not really a nation state. And you can see what a guy can do with an Uchigatana. I mean, it gets real raw and wild out here. Just Uchigatanaing the crap out of people. Well, those aren't people. They're undead, but still got hurt a little. I'm trading too much HP, trading hits too much. I can do this without getting hurt, and that's really the way that you want to do Elden Ring. And I'm failing at that, and it might be because I'm also giving a talk at the same time, and that's just life. Here's a weird guy over here if we're going to talk to, and I'm going to ignore him. You're going to look at him on screen and be like, Chuck, you gotta talk. You gotta talk about this guy, but I'm just not gonna. Instead, I'm going to talk about how even, at the onset of America, when colonists came here, they created new identities because they, wanted to be separate. And those identities excluded the people who already lived here. There were people here on this continent. They created, and the colonists came over, created new identities, did not include the people who were here already. Which, I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, it makes sense. But it betrays something about the whole enterprise, I think. I won't harp on that, but you can imagine. The American identity crisis is really about what it means to be an American. Like I said, those other countries that are nation states, you're Chinese more by virtue of certain birth traits, certain family lineages more than anything else. I'm not an expert on China. This is just kind of a distinction of many other nations from America, and that is that America was not created on an American nation, like an American set of people. It was created, this might sound very optimistic, but I guess it is. It was created with a concept in mind. It was created as a concept. Hold on, I'm moderating a comment. There we go. the nation was created as an ideal, and I know that sounds hippy dippy. I don't know, idealistic, but well, I guess it literally is idealistic since I just said it was created as an ideal. But that is the case, right? It was not created as a British people, a British, iteration, right? Not, I mean, obviously the first colonies were British colonies, and the revolution was a revolution of British colonies. But the America laid out in to some degree, the Declaration of Independence, but let's say more importantly, the Constitution, is an ideal. It does not say we former British citizens are now going to be American citizens. It does not mention that at all. It doesn't mention, it goes out of its way not to mention a specific religion, a specific people, etc. There are, unfortunately, vestiges of racism in the Constitution, or as it was originally written. There are strong notes of racism in the Declaration of Independence. Unfortunate, but true. But there was not a limitation. There was not an idea of an American race, an American skin color, an American people, religion. America was a place where all those things could exist in tandem with each other. Also slavery. We're going to set that aside because that's not the flaw. It's not the flaw I want to talk about today. It's a whole other topic, but I just want to say I'm not ignoring it. I don't have enough runes. I'm going to go back so Melania will take me to the round table. And maybe I'll see if Ronnie wants to talk to me. Love to talk to a Ronnie. Anyways, what is it to be an American then? What are American values? What's an American culture? If you say I'm an American, and I say I'm an American, and you say I believe in American culture, and I say I believe in American culture, I believe in American values, I believe in American values, but then we fight, what? Like, how does that make sense? Well, because it's a struggle. It's an ongoing thing. It's a concept that we debate about, and we say, well, a lot of us agree this, and then we prove whether these are our values or not by example, by action. If we act in a certain way, then we would have to say that way. If a majority of us are acting in that way and not admonishing it, and that's what we're all doing and agreeing on, then that is an American value. Now, for most of our history, that hasn't been straight down the line on a lot of issues, and that's fine. We debate those. Those are our issues. But not everything is an issue. We don't fight about everything, which means there are American values and American culture that we all have already agreed upon, or at least mostly agreed upon. Nothing's 100%. Oh man, these guys are 100% killing me though. Oh. Death number 2. That guy really got me with that sword. He really taught me a lesson. All right. So, sorry, I'm still mourning. Moving on. And this I already talked about. So the thing I'll say about American identity in this slide, to a degree, is if you say I'm an American, and then you say you're not an American, even though that person that lives here, enjoys citizenship, etc., you oppress that person, you exclude that person, even though they are, by the standards we have set, an American citizen, then we have a problem with our identity. Because it shouldn't be the case that someone qualifies as American in the technical sense, and someone is going to exclude them from American rights, the rights we all enjoy, the culture that we're all a part of, and oppress them and say they're not American. So I think clearly that's wrong. And that happens, which means I think we clearly have a problem. I think we also have a problem when we have processes and very distinct time when a person who is not an American becomes an American, and we ask them to swear an oath. And if we are blocking people off, people who are by every measure good, hardworking, good hardworking people, people who, are trying to become American, and we block them from that and say, no, we don't want you because of who you are. In other words, what you look like or where you come from as an identity. Whether you embrace that identity or not, we don't want you because of the identity we see you as. I feel like we have a problem because the promise of America is that freedom-loving people can become American, swear the oath, and they're just as American as anyone else. And that's the way it was for my great-great-grandparents, who immigrated here. It's not that they didn't have a hard time sometimes. Some of them did. But they were welcomed off a boat. They signed a paper. Boom. You're here. Welcome to America. You're an American. And it's not that that process should have remained the process forever. And it should necessarily be as easy to become a citizen now as it was in the 1890s or whatever. But our failure as a country to make that process accessible, understandable, and readily available for people who are willing to come here and work hard is a flaw for us, because, and it's been said a million times, the strength of America has long been immigration and bringing of new ideas and cultures into it, and that it proves the test of time. Like, when my Italian ancestors came here, they were looked at unwelcomely in some cases. Italian Americans, and I talk about this in another slide, so we'll get to whiteness and how America's idea of whiteness has evolved. And so the idea of whiteness and being an American is silly to me, because a lot of people who are white by all appearances would not have been considered white in other times in our history. My grandfather, his family was German, and I died again. A ram killed me. This is what I get. I'm getting too into talking about highfalutin things and not paying enough attention to what's trying to kill me. My grandfather was German, and the thing he said was that he lived in a place called Deutschtown, or I don't know if he lived there at the time, but regardless, there was a place called Deutschtown, Dutchtown, Deutschtown meaning Germantown. Hilariously, evolved in English to become Dutchtown, which they're not Dutch. That's the Netherlands, different place. But anyways, Deutschtown, Germantown. And the German immigrants, the German families, would all paint their shutters black as a sign of German identity. I don't know. It's a story I was told. My grandfather, who grew up in the Depression, when the Germans, I'm not sure exactly, but maybe it was when the United States got involved in World War II. At some point along the path of World War II, when the United States became embroiled with a war with Germany, suddenly there were no black shutters in Deutschtown. They all gave up their identities they had previously been proud of, because of the conflict, the perceived conflict with their American identity. I don't know what that story signifies. I just think it's an interesting story when we're talking about identity, American identity, immigration, and other things. And this isn't just about immigration, because there are people who want to exclude Americans based on a variety of traits. And I find it to be a problem, because I think the ideas of American identity are fairly well established by our founding documents, and they are kind of simple. They aren't based on race or anything else. They're based purely on whether or not you are willing to uphold the principles of the Constitution, and the founding ideals of the country. Oh, it's the exploding thing that killed me, I think. Anyways, new citizens are made to swear an oath to the Constitution. I think it's interesting. I mean, it's fine. I swore an oath to the Constitution. I have no problem with that, and I thought hard about it before I did, because I wanted to make sure it was something I believed in and something I could defend, because again, principles is identity. I didn't want to be caught in some conflict where later somebody would say, like, well, how could you be sworn to that when this. And I think I can defend my stance in all those situations. I thought about it. Again, thinking about it ahead of time prevents a lot of crises. What if American citizens who were natural born citizens, born here in the United States, were made to... I'm going to get revenge against this guy right here. See this guy? Wah! Yeah. Don't mess with a samurai sword, buddy. What if natural-born citizens were made to swear an oath to the Constitution, the same oath, at some point in life, 18, right, in order to get the right to vote? Would they all swear it? I mean, I hope so. But would that give everybody a different idea of what it means to be American? If we were all sworn to that same oath, to uphold and defend the Constitution, would it change, for the better, our American identity? I don't know. It's just a thought experiment. I don't like parts of it because it's very reminiscent of kind of dystopian fascist state, but at the same time, like, I feel like if you balk at that, what is your idea of being American? Like, what? Because the Constitution, it changes. It's a lot about rights and things, but it can also be amended. So if there's part of it you don't like, you can criticize it. You can say, I swore an oath to uphold it, and in this part here it says we can change it, and here's what I think we should change. I think that's patriotic as hell. I think that's living by the oath to the Constitution, because you're not saying, like, I rebel against the Constitution. You're saying exactly what the Constitution says. This is a living document. It's not perfect. We expect you're going to have to change it, and we have 27 times. Sorry, that was a tangent, but I think it was an important one about identity and history and what it means to be American. Because most of us aren't under that oath. Most of us just say, I'm American. I was born here, so that's it, right? The people who work to become American work really hard, take tests, etc., and swear an oath. And people will say they're not as American as somebody who was born here. I don't know, that seems weird. It seems like they worked harder for it. You know, maybe maybe I mean, working hard doesn't have to be the end all be all of what it is to be an American, but I don't know, just an interesting quandary. Sorry, totally off topic. I'm bearing down on 3 hours now, so let's get this done. Oh my god, killing it, but this is like a Martin Scorsese movie at this point. Um, this is about whiteness again. I'm sorry, I don't mean to skip past, but um, this is about the idea of America being a Christian nation. Again, something people like to claim about this identity, and like I'm not going to go through everything people say about America. I just want to hit a few high points, and this is one that I find interesting only because there are 2.4 billion Christians on the planet, so like there's only 300 and some million Americans. So like, what kind of Christian nation is America? Because there's a lot of Christianity, and I would say, me being me, I'd say there are as many definitions of Christianity as there are Christians. And I mean, beside it being specifically defined by our founders, it's just not a very meaningful statement because it doesn't tell us what that means with regard to Christianity. Because lots of Christians behave in lots of different ways. And historically, Christians have fought wars over Christianity. And speaking earlier about Thomas More and Henry the Eighth, yeah, that was about Christianity. So it doesn't reveal a whole lot about what it is to be a Christian nation. So that's why I'm like, I don't know what that means. And then real America, oh my goodness. I made like 2 slides on this, but I'm just going to jump through them. People say real American. It's a divisive term. That's all that people say about it. It is it is only intended to divide. It can't mean anything else. Like, I would love people to define it as anything other than whatever division they're trying to make. And it's not G.I. Joe, who is a real American hero. And yeah, by saying real American, you are intimating there are false or fake Americans. That's not good. Rick Derringer sang this. I don't know if he sang it. He co-wrote the song "I Am a Real American," which is apropos of nothing. I just thought about Rick Derringer, and Hulk Hogan used this as his intro music. I don't like Hulk Hogan for reasons, but that's aside from this. That song was actually written for a wrestling album, I guess, of wrestling songs. Like, it's a wrestling song, and it was used by someone else before Hulk Hogan used it. But Rick Derringer and I forget the other guy co-wrote it to be a wrestling song, and that is so weird. Like, I Am a Real American. It's a wrestling song. It's a wrestling song for fake wrestling. So what does that say about the song? And the idea of being a real American. Is a real American a wrestler? A fake wrestler? With a fake identity? I mean, that was when Hulk Hogan was a good guy. But then later he became a bad guy. Hollywood Hulk Hogan, right? I don't know. I wasn't watching wrestling again. Then I watched it when I was a kid. But so is that now he was a real American and then he was Hollywood Hulk Hogan? Does that mean the downfall of America? What does it symbolize? I don't know. Rick Derringer also helped produce Eat It, and he collaborated with Steely Dan. So Rick Derringer, not a bad guy, so it's fine. The conflict of real America is just, again, people trying to divide us. Screw that. We've only got a few slides left. Let's cruise through this. And then I've got a spot for questions that the 2 people currently watching the stream can ask. Hey, post comments later. Like and subscribe. Comment below if you have a question. If you have a question later, if you're watching the stream later, I'll come back and answer it. Okay. How to fix America's identity crisis. Woo, finally we come to it. Again, pride and shame. I just want a side point about politics when people say, like, oh, I don't like it when people get political. I actually will tell a funny anecdote. It's funny to me. I don't know. It's funny to some people, I think. I saw Roger Waters perform The Wall, which was amazing. Like, I was in the second row. This was, I don't know, it's like a decade ago or more at this point. So, you know, it's Roger Waters and his band performing The Wall with all the stage direction and inflatables and an actual giant wall that they built of bricks. And it's interesting because I'll bring up The Wall again later. But at intermission, I'm in the second row. Okay, so these are the super fans, right? I'm in the second row. And in the intermission, a gentleman in front of me, in his wonderful Pittsburgh accent, says, I really like him, but I wish he weren't so political. Roger Waters. Now, he had done a part of the show during The Wall where, I mean, I think his father died in World War II. Regardless, he was doing kind of an anti-war thing at the time. You know, we were still fighting, I think, a war in Iraq and maybe Afghanistan, or most definitely Afghanistan, but maybe still Iraq. I don't remember because I don't remember exactly when it was. But Roger Waters, he wishes Roger Waters weren't so political. He was in the first row. How did he get that far in life and Roger Waters' fandom without realizing how political Roger Waters was? And The Wall is. What? Puzzling to this day. Anyways, when people say, I don't like it when somebody gets political, what they mean is, I don't like it when somebody expresses an anthropological opinion that's different from mine, or that I don't like a political, social, or whatever opinion that's like, oh, I don't like it when people get political. Yeah, because they said something you don't like. If they said stuff you like, you'd be like, oh yeah, whatever. That's not political. It's just common sense. And that's exactly it. One person's political is another person's common sense. And people don't get that. And it causes conflict. So, again, I mean, it's words, definitions, but these things have power, like I said earlier. Oh, man, come on. How did I miss him? Did you guys see that? That was some loser stuff. He's getting this. Whatcha? Oh, he didn't care about that, did he? I rolled. Rolled like a real jerk. And I'll give him again. Whatcha? That noise isn't helping. No, he got me. He got me right there. Oh, the edge of that sword just got me. Man, I have made no progress in this game. Anyways, moving on. Identity and hate. So, this is just a general principle about how we fix things. And it's going to be hard to convince people of this. Because when people have political power, they feel like they're in the right a lot of times, no matter what they're doing. But oppression should be unacceptable all the time, where oppression means social ostracization or harmful action against people whose identity does not create a provable real harm to others. Again, action, social ostracization or political action, legal action against people based on their identity when that identity has no provable harm. Oh man, I think we all know the things that fall under this and don't, but come on people, let people live their lives. I mean provable and real, not, oh, they're corrupting the children. Do you know what Socrates was accused of? What he was convicted of? One of the charges that led to his death by Hemlock. One of the greatest thinkers of all time, whose thoughts still stand up to this day, whose ideas still stand the test of time. Not all of them, but plenty of them. Corrupting the youth. Corrupting the youth. So don't give me that BS. I need real, provable harm. Otherwise, let them be. Other people are different. Leave them be. This is a country built on differences, not built on a monolith. It's built on principles. Principles laid out in a constitution. They're very clear. Principles laid out in founders' letters and other documents that are very clear. There is room for argument. There's always room for argument. But 99% of it is clear. And between the lines, those documents all say, if people are different, leave them be. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. If people are different than you, leave them be. They are free to be different. They're not free to hurt anybody. And if you have real provable harm that they're doing, we'll stop them. That's what laws are for. Otherwise, let them be. Don't otherize your neighbors. That's a good way to repair America's rifts. And here's the thing. I haven't expressed a lot of, or maybe any, strict political opinions during all this. That's because I don't need to. I don't identify strongly with a political side or party. And in fact, as you might understand from other things I've said about being iconoclastic, I dislike identifying with parties. For me, it doesn't work for me. And for everybody else, they can do whatever they want. But for me, it doesn't work. I don't feel like anybody is good at representing my opinions and ideas. Do you know who's good at representing my opinions and ideas? Me. That's why I'm doing a 3-hour talk. Anyways. So what I want to say, what I mean about I'm not being political overly here, or partisan, is none of these tips were intended for one quote unquote one side or the other. One party, one political organization. No. These are intended for everybody. I'm not going to say I see on both sides, because that is a bullshit division in the first place. And I swore again. I'm sorry. It's a BS division in the first place. Both sides. So now there are sides. Where'd the sides come from? Who made the sides? Who drew the line? When did I get to pick which side of the line I'm on? I didn't get to pick a side. Both sides. There's only two sides. Everybody on that side believes this way and everybody on that side believes this way. Don't give me both sides. Give me facts. Your opinion, how you justify that opinion. Not sides. There are no sides. It's made up BS. It's an oversimplification so that people can feed you things. I know, I'm sounding like a kid who grew up on Rage Against the Machine and punk rock. I am that kid. But they're right. Don't let people tell you which side you're on. It's not a side. It's your opinion. It's your belief. It's your vote. It's your money. It's your the freedom of expression. It's your idea. It's your identity. It's yours. And don't let anybody co-opt it to put it on a side. Trans people can be for low taxes for corporations. It's fine. That's not a side. There's no side. Gay men can be anti-abortion if they want. There's nothing incoherent about that. It's only incoherent because you assume that there's a side for everything. And that side believes everything the same, and this side believes everything the same. And we all intuitively know that it's not true, but we also all act unconsciously like it is. And we otherize our neighbors. You got a Trump sign, I don't like you. You got a Harris sign, I don't like you. Why not? You can't like them? Because you don't know what their opinions are. You can say that X candidate, again, I'm not naming names, You can say that X candidate said this thing, and that thing was hurtful. That thing was hateful. So if you put sign that says I support X candidate on your front lawn, you're hateful. That's not it's not true. It's a fair critique of the person, but it doesn't mean it's a true fact about them. It's a fair critique to say, if you don't believe that, why would you put the sign out there? But they may have their own reasons, and they have the right to present those reasons. You can judge people, nobody can stop you. But if you're judging them based on that kind of thing, you're just going to you're creating hate in your heart. You're creating divisiveness. Rather than, again, and you're otherizing. You're building that wall. That sign, that political sign, is now a wall. It's a wall between you and them. You don't want to see them. You don't want to talk to them. You don't want to find out about them. Pink Floyd's The Wall. Pink Floyd's The Wall. The character, Pink builds a wall to protect himself from other people, and as a result, he's alienated himself. His identity to him becomes unlovable, becomes unfulfillable. He doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't know who he is. And it's not until the second act, when he tears down the wall to reach out to the people who are outside of his wall, he makes connections and feels human again. When you build a wall because you think you would know somebody based on a sign they put in their yard, how they voted, you're destroying yourself. I know people don't like that. I know people think if someone is hateful by virtue of who they support, then they are undeserving of love, and that wall must be built. I know people who are marginalized, people who are oppressed, who are being outsidered and oppressed in this culture right now, who live lifestyles that are being judged and being legislated against. I know those people say, I don't have time to care, or my life's under threat. And I am not going to command someone. I'm not going to command anyone. But I don't want to intone to those people that their feelings are invalid and they should love anyways. It's a choice that everybody has to make. Again, I'm not religious, but let's just turn to a Western religion, Christianity, and look at what one of its main stories says. And it's not a story to live up to. It's just that I think that this kind of betrays the nature of a lot of things. And that's that this holy man sacrifices himself, makes himself sacred by allowing himself to be killed by people who oppress him, to save other people. This is not a one-to-one allegory or recommendation to anyone. Definitely don't sacrifice yourself to people who are oppressing you, because it'll help anybody else. Not the case. The case is that all of us, from those of us who are comfortable to those of us who are being made uncomfortable, being oppressed, who want something to change, have to make sacrifices, meaning we have to make ourselves sacred by losing things. The word sacrifice means to make sacred. So when I'm talking about sacrifices, I always think about, well, what is being made sacred? And here it's like, if you sacrifice for a principle, you're making the principle sacred. If you sacrifice for a loved one, you're making the loved one sacred. If you sacrifice for an ideal, you're making that ideal sacred. That's what it means. That's what a real sacrifice is. So, again, I'm not a Christian. I'm not a religious person at all. But I just find the allegory interesting, that sacrifice of to people who are against you, to your enemies, is redemptive. Something that also Jesus preaches in other parts of the Bible. I don't agree with Jesus on everything. I mean, I don't even really know. I don't have a confirmed belief of whether he exists or not. I don't really have a strong opinion about that one way or the other. But the idea of loving your enemy goes hand in hand with my idea earlier that everyone is deserving of love, that all humans, in order to avoid inhumanity, we must acknowledge that all humans are deserving of love, and we might not treat any of them inhumanely. So are you really hurting this person who has the sign of the person you don't like, and you're saying, I don't like this person because they put that sign in their front yard? You're probably not really hurting them. You're probably hurting yourself because, again, I think that building that wall, like Pink in the wall, it hurts you more than it hurts the people outside the wall. But my point is that if you want to live by certain principles, like everybody deserves rights and they all deserve love and they should be treated fairly and they shouldn't be oppressed or killed or anything else, then you have to make some hard choices along the way. Choices where you say, this person maybe doesn't deserve this, but I'm going to do it anyways. Choices that are sacrifices. Choices that make sacred someone that you didn't love before. You might not even like. That's difficult. What identity does that serve? The martyr? I don't want everybody to be a martyr. That's not really what I'm asking for. But the fact is that principles require sacrifice. So earlier, when I talked all about principles and principles and principles, what I didn't prepare you for maybe was it's hard, and you're going to do things that are not instinctive, and that you maybe don't like if you're going to live up to certain principles. Like, everybody deserves love, or everybody deserves protection of their rights. Ask the ACLU. They have to stand up for some really heinous people. But that is, I believe, in my experience, an organization that has proved over and over again that principles are the most important thing to them. Okay, sorry. I went on a rant. We're passing 3 hours now. George Martin, if you ever finish Game of Thrones, I feel like otherizing people in the wall has got to be a theme there, because you built, metaphorically, or you allegorically or fictionally, whatever, built the wall, something that's called the wall, and the people on the other side of it are called the others. I mean, less in the show they're called the White Walkers or whatever, but in the book they're very much the others, and they live on the other side of the wall. So come on, jam your metaphor down my throat, why don't you, George? George, please finish the books. If you're watching, please finish. If George R.R. Martin, if you were within the power of my voice, please finish the books. I like them. I didn't like Wheel of Time that much, and so when that guy didn't finish them, I was like, whatever. But unfortunately, I do like the Game of Thrones. I think it will be hilarious if he doesn't finish the books. If he would, and I don't wish this on anyone, obviously, but if he were to pass away or just disappear, maybe he just buys an island and nobody ever sees him again. He goes all J.D. Salinger. The resulting YouTube videos of everybody saying, well, this would have happened, would be gold. I mean, people already do that. But the ex post facto, like, well, this is what would have happened. Oof. Mwah. And that when he does finish them, I think the videos of like this, what should have happened, are also going to be fun to watch. I love Game of Thrones theory videos, so that's me. Anyways, American can be one thing for you and something else for everybody else, and everybody can live together that way, and it's fine. Unless you're saying someone can't be an American, right? And then unless you're saying that American is one thing. And if you're not that, then you're not American. Like, the only thing that shouldn't be American are things like, well, I'm a citizen of Burundi. I live in Burundi. I don't know anything about America. I don't visit America. I don't want to learn about America. I don't learn about America. And I continue to live in Burundi. Yes, that is not an American. That's should not be labeled American. Wouldn't really make a lot of sense. But if you're here and it's happening here and you've lived here and you're living by the Constitution, then that's American, baby. I don't know what else to call that. This guy's in a chair. He's very sleepy. And you're probably very sleepy because this has been going for like 3 hours. Now, we're getting to the end. In fact, this is the last slide. If something or someone is in America most of the time, it's probably American. And that includes people who are immigrants and maybe not citizens. They're not American citizens, but if they've spent 30 years here, pretty darn American at that point. And if a concept comes here and it grows for decades, it's pretty darn American. Like, I'm not going to take tacos away from whether it was Mexico or another country. I don't know where tacos were, quote unquote, invented, whatever. I'm not going to say tacos have always been American. But certainly there are American tacos, right? And they're probably very different from tacos of other countries. Now, it is no quintessential essence to an American taco, or any taco. Is a hot dog a taco? Is a taco a hot dog? It's not about that. It's about the way tacos are made in America. It's about, plenty of people whose heritage in America stretches back centuries, whose culture also made tacos. That's part of it too. In Pittsburgh, we love pierogies. And I don't know what pierogies are like in Europe. I've never been to Europe and eaten a pierogi. But we have pierogies. And we don't really think of them as American. But they're pretty American in our neck of the woods. They're at least Western Pennsylvanian, to us. So being exclusionary and saying, that's not American, you're not American, when somebody has clearly been here and influenced the culture and participated in the culture and the society and the politics, that is a B to the S. It's bull. And that's the only thing that we need to embrace to be better Americans and to get over America's identity crisis. Like, stop being divisive. It's easy to say, but it actually takes a lot of work. And a lot of that work is gripping with our own individual identities about what we mean when we say we're American and about what could possibly be meant by the word un-American. How someone becomes un-American, what they do that is un-American, and, how they would atone for being un-American. Those questions need to be answered, and they need to be distinctly answered. And if they're not distinctly answered, and I died again. If they're not distinctly answered, then I think it's BS. If you can't answer me about what you mean when you say real American, it's BS. Is it country mouse and city mouse? Come on. Is it urban and rural? Is it black and white? Is it southwestern and northeastern? Is it coastal or interior? Is it... This is all BS. All those people are American. I mean, not all, but none of those things make a person not American or un-American or fake American versus real American. Okay, I've droned on for over 3 hours now. But if you have embraced what I've been talking about and not been distracted by how bad I am at Elden Ring, which I'm just gathering. I'm just like trying to gather XP. I'm not even trying to get, oh my gosh, a great rune or anything. And I still died like 4 4 times. Now, if I'd been paying attention, maybe I would be... Oh my god, Shaggy Dog, quit it. Quit it. I don't want to have to hurt you. I hate killing Shaggy Dog. Oh, man. Because my katana form is pretty good. But I have to focus at least a little bit. I'm not good at that. While also talking. So, and the thing about it is like, maybe there is a political party or a political movement that is more guilty at this time of saying these people aren't real Americans. Those people aren't real Americans. This is an American value and that isn't. And we need to take back our country, which, oh, I hate that phrase. I guarantee you that whatever party or movement is doing that now, it was the opposite party or movement saying it some number of decades ago. And that's because, to be frank, ideas like anti-immigration, anti-gay, anti-trans, anti-Italian, anti-Irish, anti-black, anti-Muslim, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, and anti-whatever. Those ideas aren't exclusive to a political movement or a political position, and they have nothing to do with it. I am pro-labor, and I'm also pro-immigrant. Those are things that in the past have been extremely separated. A lot of labor unions did not like immigration because they felt like immigrants could come in and take union jobs at lower wages. So they weren't for immigration. So you can find plenty of pro-union people in the past who were very racist, anti-immigration. It's not a monolithic stand to be possessed of any identity or position in politics. People have been racist and pro-social welfare. People have been racist and communist. People have been, gay and pro-growth. It's just so silly to think that our identity as Americans has 2 sides. It doesn't. And morality doesn't have 2 sides. And this guy has way too much armor and too many hit points. So this is going to be, to put it lightly, a challenge. I gotta break his stance or something. So when they say both sides, oh my god. When they say the other side, when they say same side, reject it. Because it is the boiling down of our complex identities to 2 sides. It is the ignorance of our principles and how those principles should shape our identities in favor of t-shirts, sports teams. Just like acting like our politics is 2 soccer teams on a field. That's it. That's all it is. It's not beliefs. It's not love. It's not caring for our fellow person. It's not citizenship. It's just teams fighting it out on a field. And that minimizes all of us. It minimizes all of us as individuals. It minimizes our opinions and our ability to express ourselves. It minimizes our rights when we are reduced to caricatures in one party or another. And so now I will answer questions. I don't think any appeared in the chat, but I'll wait a minute. And I'm gonna close some things, but thank you. If you've listened to all this, thank you. I mean, I'm gonna do my call to actions again. But obviously, this is a topic that I care a lot about. So I'm sorry I didn't do more bugging you. to go to fivecalls.org. Call your representative, call your 2 senators, and tell them to fund the CFPB. Tell them it's important to you. Tell them that this funding crisis, the CFPB's funding needs to be restored, and that protection for consumers needs to be full. It needs to be going on. I heard people in a hearing this week on quote unquote both sides of the aisle. Now, to be fair, both sides is actually somewhat meaningful there because they all have a party affiliation, and most of them are 1 or 2 party affiliations. The only other ones are independents. I don't think there's any third party representation currently. I could be wrong about that. There might be a third party in the House somewhere I'm just not immediately aware of. But both sides talking about protecting consumers this week, I heard in a hearing. Well, then do something about it. Come on. They apparently are worried about consumers and consumer protection. Just call them up and tell them do what you said. You said you cared about consumer protection. So fund the CFPB. Restore the funding. It's not that hard. Vote on it. You know what I mean? And speaking of vote, change.org/stopvote. Read up on it. Sign the petition if you agree. Again, this is a nonpartisan, non-political stream. It's not about politics of it per se. It is about policy, which, I mean, again, I talked about earlier how the word politics is really not specific. But there's got to be things that are political. There's got to be something that politics means. I just don't know what it is necessarily right now. I'm moving all the text again. That's not what I wanted to do. So this is not a political statement. Anyways, just read the petition and see if you agree that perhaps the acting director of the CFPB may not be serving Americans in the best way possible. NTU335.org/script. You can find a script there that'll help you when you go to fivecalls.org and call people. There are a number of talking points, quote unquote, there. Again, this is these are numbers and research done by the union. I vouch for them, but you don't have to take my word for it. You can do your research. Even might just help you phrase things if you support the CFB and you want to use the scripts. But I encourage you personally to go ahead and use the scripts. But I understand, again, if I haven't made it clear, that I'm very fiercely, independent and iconoclastic and blah, blah. Who cares about that? I sound so cool. I'm so punk rock. But the point is I understand people who are like, I don't want to just sign a thing. I don't want to just read somebody else's words. I get that. And I definitely don't don't promote otherwise. I'm with you. But yeah, so you can find a script there, and it can help you make those calls. Fivecalls.org. All right, let's go back to Rusty real quick for the final chapter before we are finished today, this afternoon, this evening now, that I'm at 3 hours and 20 minutes. Long time, but like I said, I think it's an important topic. I had a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about, and I promised in a lot of my sharing of this talk and things like that and linked here, I promised everybody that I would solve a lot of their problems. So I wanted to be pretty thorough about talking about how identity affects us and how we can improve our relationship, if you will, with our identity, like how we can become better people through the use of identity and by understanding how our identities affect us. I think it's all about awareness. It's all about self-reflection, and not everybody is comfortable with that or knows how to do it, and that's understandable. So you got to practice. Everything takes practice, including figuring your own self out. All right, we're gonna run Rusty down. See if Ronnie wants to talk to us yet. Give us a little bell, and after he rests, I think that's going to be the end of the stream for this time. I'm sorry I didn't make a lot of Elden Ring progress. Can't imagine why, but hey, I got the Uchigatana and I'm using it, which I don't know what build I'm going to go with for Rusty long term. I was kind of thinking maybe I would do maybe like a great sword jumping kind of thing. That's a fun one sometimes, but it gets a little repetitive. I do like two swords, like a curved sword bleed build. So maybe we'll do that if I can get the right swords. I don't really want to farm for them. That's kind of annoying. But another fun one I just like the look of is two katanas. It's not always great, but it's fun to watch. The animations are very cool.
This tiny golden aura is the grace of the earth.
All right.
This light
Thank you to everybody who tuned in.
the eyes of
Thank you to
your
anybody who
large
watched the
brethren.
whole thing. God
But
forbid.
now
I mean, I hope you learned
it is
something.
all that guides
Lord
you
knows the only thing I have
can
to,
see the ways of
share is my
Upon
ideas.
the cliff,
I don't know how
a
much value they
mysteries
have.
of grace, then the elder has an
And
ally
this is
praying
Melania's
to
telling
face
me about the Elden Ring. And then
Upon
if
the
I ask her
cliff,
what the hell is the
at
Elden
the
Ring,
neck of
she
the
don't
ring,
she
the
don't know.
Elden Ring beckons
She
an
don't know.
ally pray
It's
to
a ring.
face
It's Elden. Somebody busted it.
Shall I turn? Let my share them with me.
Let's see.
Your
I'm gonna go
thoughts.
with
Your ambitions.
more vigor because I am getting
the
killed a lot.
principles you would follow.
Okay. All right. Ronnie didn't appear. Maybe I'll pass time until night because I think she only appears at night. Let's see if Ronnie wants to talk to me. Ronnie. Nope. Ronnie's like, F off. Ain't nobody cares about your dumb tarnished butt. What a jerk. Alright. I wasn't really paying attention. Did I get another suit? Is this gonna make this medium load? Okay. There we go. A little bit better armor. Now, well, man, the lack of pants is really a look, isn't it? Don't suppose I got any pants. Nope. Alright, well, you know what? I'm going to switch back to this because honestly, that's easier to deal with. Not concerned about the armor values. Am concerned about Donald ducking it. The shirt, no pants look is just not, that's not right for me. And, you know, that's fine. To each their own. So thank you again for watching Elden Ring. Thank you for listening to me rattle on. No questions in the chat, but if you post later, I'll try and look and reply. So, hey, if you have questions about identity, bring it forth. And again, if you're a powerful person right now and you need a friend, reach out. I'm happy to be your friend. We can talk about stuff. We won't always agree, and that's okay. You don't have to agree with your friends and loved ones on everything. They are going to be wrong about stuff. But the important thing is they are human, and you have to show them humanity. Well, I guess you don't have to, but I recommend it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at me. I'm leveling up that Uchigatana. Oh, I guess I'm a katana man now. Wah, 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 wah. Yada, yada, doo, dee, da. I'm gonna be katana man. All right. So. Oh, I accidentally left half the text still up. It doesn't matter. Hit like and subscribe now. And again, I want to talk about our fan club, the Save the CFPB Chuck Warner Stream fan club, such as it is. I'm going to turn off Elden Ring now. Bye, Elden Ring. Okay, I'm going to make myself real big again. I'm mighty. Whee! I think, there's an easier way. Again, if I had had time today, I would have investigated an easier way to transition between like, oh, I'm big and I'm talking, and text on the screen, and it's not on the screen. But didn't have time. Go back and listen to the first 10 minutes if you really need to know about that. I did solve 2 Rubik's Cubes today. Fan club. If you get 5 people to subscribe, you are a member of the fan club. Okay? That's base level. 5 people subscribe, you're in the fan club. You're a member. That's the official level. Member. Okay? Now, it's honor system, of course. We've been over that. I trust you. You know if you're a fan or not. 5 people to get 5 people to subscribe, you're a fan. Now, we're introducing a new level. If you get 10 people to subscribe, sorry, I said 5 people to subscribe, you're a fan. Actually, you get 5 people to subscribe, you're a member of the fan club. But if you get 10 people to subscribe, again, honor system, you are a fan. You earn the title fan of the fan club. So you're a member of the fan club, and then you're a fan of the fan club. That's the next elite level. 10 people to subscribe to the channel, and you're a fan of the fan club. So we'll be introducing higher levels, more elite levels, with perks and bennies as time goes on. Right now, the channel has 31 subscribers. So right now, I have up to 6 members of the fan club. I don't know if I have 6. I don't think so. But maybe up to 6 of you are members of the fan club. Congratulations. Yeah, like and subscribe. Stay tuned. There'll be more. We'll be streaming again this week. I'll be streaming again next weekend. Until the CFPB is saved, you will keep seeing me. I will keep bothering you. So, why don't you call? Make those calls. 5calls.org. Then you won't have to see me anymore. I'll do a stream about, I don't know, the relative morals of Star Trek versus Star Wars. Something that you nerds will enjoy. Not, bugging you every 5 minutes to call. I'll move on. Save the CFPB can end, and we'll do a different stream altogether. Because I know you love the streams, and you can't just walk away. But you're sick of hearing me plead for help, and that's fair. If you want me to stop pleading for help, help. Anyways, I think that's it. Like and subscribe. Tune in for more. There's a script link down there that I want to turn off, and now I'm obsessed with it. So until I figure out where that the button went for me to, there we go. Oh my. I get a little bit overly focused on certain things, and then I feel like I can't move on until they're done. Just, something to talk to my therapist about. I should have ended this by now. Like and subscribe. That's the end. We're at 3.5 hours now. That's the end. And I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are worthy of love, and you deserve to be loved. And like and subscribe. but mostly, like and subscribe. All right, that's it for me this time. Okay, let's do the thing where I play the song that as the outro. And I turned the camera off. I wanted to stop talking when I turned the camera off, but I didn't. I'm still talking, and the camera is off, and I lost the application audio for the theme song. That's not good. Hold on. We've got problems. I'm doing... Okay, wait. All right, now we're back. We're back. Okay, now I'm going to play the theme song out, okay? Theme song. Here we go. Or not theme. It's not a theme song. What is a theme song? Anyways, here goes the outro song.